check. 2, hello, check. Siblings. What's up, folks? Hello. It's me. Is anyone there? If no one's here, I'm just gonna eat my sandwich.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
21 months? More like 20 fun months, am I right?
Human person, thanks so much for that. Thanks for the 21 months. It has been. Actually, it hasn't always been fun. It hasn't always been fun. I'm happy to have you in the community, human person. So often it's not fun, though. But thank you. What kind of sandwich?
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Cosmic Crisp have been located.
I've got a Honey Crisp up the Reds, but no, I still haven't been able to find that elusive Cosmic Crisp. Thanks for 21 months of Prime. Up the Reds. If you want to know what kind of sandwich, it's like a little brioche hamburger bun. I got 2 kinds of salami, some Havarti, spicy peppers, mayo mustard. Put it in the air fryer to crisp it up and melt the cheese for 3 minutes. Very good. Two salamis, that's right. I think it's illegal to use a hamburger bun, not for hamburger. I did make some really good burgers on Friday. I have leftover buns. But these are brioche buns. So I think it gets grandfathered in, honestly. It's a brioche. You know, it's not just a hamburger bun. You can use it for hamburgers, but you can use it for other things as well. Snowy day in Atlantic Canada. It's a cold, snowy day here in Montreal, yeah. Don't feel great about that. That's right, we got snow. It's like 1 degree here right now. You know, I've been making burgers for a long time, like years now. I've been trying to perfect a way to make a burger. And I think when I first started out, I was always mixing stuff in with the ground beef, mixing in breadcrumbs and whatever else, Worcester sauce or ketchup or barbecue sauce or whatever it is, mixing stuff up with the meat, trying to do big, large patties, you know. Just ground beef and a fistful of salt. And I put pepper as well, carrier wave. But here's the thing, though. I like putting mushrooms and onions on top of the burger, not in the meat, though. Here's the thing that I've realized as well. James, I was just about to say this. You gotta do small patties. You gotta do small patties. It's taken me years to realize this. I thought you want a big burger, you make a big patty. No, you make 2 small patties. Can you settle an argument for me? I ordered a burger called the Burger Montrealais, which ended up being just a smoked meat sandwich on a burger bun. There was a picture of it on the menu, but I didn't really closely inspect to see there wasn't a burger patty on it. Am I wrong for being upset about not getting a real burger? Or is the restaurant in the wrong here? I mean, I would need to see the menu, Ninja Can. I think if I were to hear a Burger Montrealais with smoked meat, what I would expect is a burger that has some smoked meat on it as well. That's what I would expect. But I got to see the menu, because in the menu it probably specifies that, not just in the picture, but by the way, this is just smoked meat on a burger. Like, that has to be clear. If it wasn't clear, then I think you're in the right. Burger implies the burger part. Like, what? It's not just the bun. You know? Chin chin, everyone. So yeah, I think that would be a little upsetting. Taco burger doesn't have a patty and you're not allowed to be upset about that. Well, what's that? What's a taco burger? What even is that? Anyway, you got to go with those small patties. Just a little sphere. A little sphere onto the hot pan. Push it down. Bunch of salt, bunch of pepper. About what? 3 minutes aside? Amazing. We don't talk about it. Oh my.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
We talking salt and pep?
That's right, Squatch. Thanks so much for 31 months. Resub at tier 2. Thank you, Squatch, for all the support. Yeah, I was just talking about burgers, like how I've evolved on that. Evolved from mixing all kinds of stuff in there and the meat and everything to just the ultimate simple version, which is just really the preferred version. It's a shame the USA is what's keeping you from knowing Mexico at all. That's it. There's totally the reason y'all are so white, 100%. I mean, we have Mexican restaurants in Montreal. Not so much like the fast food kind of places like Taco Bell or all the different fast food taco chains. We have a lot of like authentic kind of Mexican restaurants. Not that the fast food isn't, I mean, I guess depending on where it's from, it's not that authentic. I definitely don't know I still don't know what a taco burger is though. Dakadoo, never heard of a taco burger. But you're in Wisconsin, I think, aren't you, Dakadoo? I think that's culturally Canadian anyways. Tex-Mex is trash. It's yummy, but it's disgusting. And a taco burger is bullshit Tex-Mex. And it is what it sounds like. I mean, that sounds great to me. I would love some bullshit Tex-Mex. Not knowing exactly what it is, I would absolutely love to try a taco burger one night. That sounds great. Taco meat, taco sauce, taco veggies on a bun. Wow. Wow. Just a satellite state of Canada. That's right. Wisconsin and Minnesota, I think. I think we should get to claim Wisconsin and Minnesota. They should be the new provinces. A chain called Taco Mayo makes them here. It's even called Taco Mayo. Wow. Can we take their guns first? I think we probably should. Yeah. We should take away their guns when we reabsorb them into the country and repurpose all the guns for the People's Revolutionary Army. in Roblox. Smoosh them together, call it Minsconsian. Yeah, good. Trade them for Ontario, aka North Ohio. I think we got to keep Toronto though, because definitely I grew up in small town Ontario, and it's absolutely culturally almost indistinguishable from America. Like maybe with a few minor things. North Ohio. I think you got to keep Toronto though. Wisconsin is such a strange and druggy alcoholic state. Well, I think one of the Democrat or Republican conventions is there. I'm planning on going, so I would actually like to go check out Wisconsin. It seems like I would like it. Beer and sausage and cheese curds. That's pretty much what I know about Wisconsin. Is that about right? The three things that I think of when I think of Wisconsin, that's what occurs to me. I know I live in Toronto and I think it's irredeemable. Well, maybe. Can we have northern Montana? Saskatchewan is hard to say when you're drunk. That I don't know. I leave the prairie stuff up for prairie people. I don't know. That it's none of my business. That's the little thing about Canada, how fake it is. Like, I have no connection. I have no connection whatsoever to people that live west of Windsor, Ontario. We don't live close to one another. We come from totally different cultures and environments. Different sort of weather system, biosphere. I know nothing about it. It has nothing to do with me. The Plains people. We leave the Plains people up to that. They decide. As a maritimer, I can vouch for down east Maine being pretty much indistinguishable. Yeah, and I love spending time there. I love spending time in Maine for that exact reason. Many Quebecers do. You see Quebec signs and hotels and stuff all the way down there. Balkanized North America into 99 distinct micro-provinces, hyper-oblasts, and khanates.
This is some guy, Rob Russo, some leftist based in Canada. I was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
Dr. Maggot's here. Oh, good. We can start. Lucid, thanks so much for the raid. Thank you, Lucid. How was the Lucid Fox stream today? I hope it was good. Hello, folks. It's me. It's Rob. It's nice to see you. Smash the follow button if you wanna follow. If you're not doing that, I feel like at this point where the crossover is completely saturated now. Still feels pretty Canadian in here. It is. It is. Look at me. Just look at me. You know? Yeah, I've never been west of Sudbury. It's nothing against the people that live west of these regions, you know, nothing against them. In fact, I do know many people that live in that kind of region, wonderful people with great values. It's not a judgment. I'm simply saying that we have no real cultural connection to one another. Except the kind of cultural connection that's been invented in marketing campaigns. Wearing plaid shirts, playing hockey. We're going out to Tim Hortons, eh, bud? Yeah, settler culture. That's right. Hey, we're drinking some Molson Canadian and going out for Tim Hortons later. You want to go in the parking lot and have a couple darts there, bud? You know, that's what we have, and this was all invented recently. This was all invented very recently. This whole kind of character. The syrup in my veins just thinking good. Is that a fully Canadian thing? Let's go out for a rip, bud. Calling cigarettes darts. Is that a Canadian thing? Is there any Americans that grew up here in that kind of thing? Going out for a dart, eh, bud? People's loyalty to Tim's is still weird to me. Their stuff sucks butt now. Honestly, Trio, I like it. I still like eating at Tim Hortons. I like the food there. And I like the coffee, frankly. But I don't think it's some important part of our culture.
You can count
That's where
on
we
me.
gotta
You're gonna have
pump
good
the
old
brakes.
Rob to talk you through all this.
Canadian Rob has the best sub badges. For instance, he has the P badge.
The sausage farmer's wrap is very good. I get that all the time. Really good breakfast. You get that sausage farmer's wrap, large coffee. It's good. I don't think it's this big, important, inseparable part of our culture, though. That's where you gotta draw the line. I do like whatever sauce they use on those wraps for sure. It's got this like spicy mayo kind of thing. Very good. Dr. Maggot, thanks so much for 22 months of Tier 1 and all this. Thanks for all the support. Thank you, Dr. Maggot. Let's roll out to Timmy O's, get some crullers, and have a dart there, bud. Yeah. It's not like a restaurant is not a culture. You know, it's what are we doing here? What are we doing? A restaurant is not a culture. Like a mediocre coffee chain. It's not even Canadian. It's literally not owned by a Canadian company. It's owned by like a Brazilian food conglomerate. That's not a culture. This is a side thing. But did you ever go to Disney World and look at their depiction of Canada at Epcot? No, I've never been to Disney World. What's it like? I do find it funny how people have this really weird conception. I think I've talked about this before, but there's this video that went viral of this woman doing all kinds of different accents. Like all these different regional British accents, all these different regional American accents. And then she just goes like, "Oh, hey, I'm Mary from Toronto, Canada, eh?" From Toronto. Just the most cartoonish, zero effort is like everyone north of the 49th parallel sounds like this to me. I said parallel because that was my old podcast name. Everyone north of the border just sounds like this to me across the entire country. So realistic, and it's so all the different regional accents are all represented. All the different British accents and different people from around the world. "Oh, hey, I'm from Toronto, Canada, eh? Hey, bud?" It's so strange. There are a lot of genuinely fascinating accents within Canada, absolutely. Hail the Beast doesn't sound like that. Come on. Yeah, it's funny. People have weird, distorted ideas about this place. It enrages me because I think you're talking about Siobhan before she went on College Humor on her show. It was called something like Anglophonia, but I never look it up when you do this. I can't remember if it was a College Humor person. I just remember this viral video. And the care that is taken to distinguish all these different accents. And then it's just, there's one place in Canada, Toronto. And everyone in Canada, we talk like this, eh, bud? And that's it. No effort to... You could do the East Coast. You could do the Toronto accent, which is like this mix of all these different kind of Caribbean kind of accents as well, with all the slang and everything. There's Quebecois accent. Like, there's all kinds of weird, funny accents across this land. Okay, Jay. Okay. That's enough. That's enough out of you. I'm on the West Coast, so I arguably have the best Canadian accent. I just feel like I talk normally. I don't know. I don't have an accent. I know there's different people in Canada that have accents. I don't have an accent. I don't know. I'm just generic North American English. My first Canadian pals were brothers from Kelowna that had missing teeth from hockey. They used to fib and say they're from Moose Jaw. That sounds like you were being pranked. And someone was giving you like a stereotypical Canadian person. Generic Yankee. I do sound Canadian according to Squatch, okay. Did you grow up in Quebec? No, I grew up in Brockville, Ontario. I was born here in Quebec and I've lived here for the last 20 years. But I grew up in Brockville, Ontario. Which, yeah, again, culturally is indistinguishable from like Ohio. It should count as the Midwest. Oh, far flight from Brockville as well. That's crazy. I was not aware of that far flight. Yep. Brock Vegas, as we call it. Ontario equals Fargo for sure. Yeah, but even they, like people in that Coten Brothers accent, they have accents in like Fargo. They kind of do that same thing, like, oh, don't you know, that kind of thing. I'm gonna have to question your police work there. You know? Yeah, thank you for backing me up on this, James. Home of the Thousand Islands, that's right. Where'd you go to high school, Farflight? I went to BCI. Brockville Collegiate Institute. I've got to be... Oh, you went to St. Mary's. Okay, interesting. I've got to be one of the more well-known people from Brockville. Like, I know what I do is kind of niche. Surely I must be, though. I've got to be up there. Yeah, and Simica, I do not... maybe I do have an accent, a Canadian accent somehow. I do not have a Quebecois accent, though. Because Quebecois accents come from people that speak French predominantly. And English is their second language, but English is my first language. Isn't Avril Lavigne not far from there? Someone on the 401? I think, is she from Sudbury? It's pretty far. Ontario is huge. Ontario is really big. When did Canada make English their primary language? It's really only in Quebec that French is people's primary language. In Canada, we tell people that we're bilingual, that we speak both English and French, but most people are just unilingual and speak English. It's really just Quebec that there's any sort of like actual like large numbers of French speakers, francophones. There's pockets here and there elsewhere. There's pockets of francophone communities in the East Coast, for example, and a few other places, but primarily here. No, we tell people we're bilingual because it sounds cool, then they ask us to speak French. I do speak French all right. I don't even know if I would describe myself as bilingual. Hello, Hunger Games. What's up? I'm not even on the list of famous people from Brockville. Damn. That's bullshit. I'm being censored. French is almost as fake sounding as English. Well, especially Quebecois French, too. It's just absurd. It's an absurd language. I went to French immersion for kindergarten to grade 5, though, so I was always eager to speak French when people asked. Yeah, I was in French immersion from grade 5 to 8, and I wish I had continued doing it. My French would be a lot better if I'd continued doing it. Yeah, that's a good point, Lodane. I mean, French is so widely spoken because of the colonial history, so if you do have a basic grasp of French, you can communicate with a lot of people around the world. You can debate about whether that's right or wrong, and of course it is wrong, but that's the reality, is that a lot of these former French colonies are still, French is still widely spoken there, so. With English and French and Spanish, you can really get by through a lot of the world. Did the NDP nuance their Palestine position? The first thing they said was pretty terrible, but I've kind of forgotten what, because there's so much goddamn news. I think the Sarah Jamaah thing has completely watered down or diluted whatever. If they've managed to, we can take a look at it. If they've managed to like stumble into an acceptable position on this, the way that they treated Sarah Jamaah should just completely disqualify them, you know? I did see that Globo Cup. That's really cool that Corbyn reached out to her.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
From the river to the sea.
Thank you, Genghis Khan, for 14 months of Tier 1. It's fucked up how Quebec leaders use protecting the language as a political issue. Meanwhile, what they're really doing is preventing lower-class French Canadians who can't afford private school from learning English, while the capitalist class, same ones writing the laws, can do whatever the fuck they want. I mean, it is true that, like, the really draconian language laws that we do see here sometimes, under the guise of preserving this culture. And, like, Quebec is a unique culture. Anyone that has ever visited Quebec and has ever been here before and has been elsewhere in Canada knows full well that it's a unique culture. Like, it doesn't need these draconian laws to protect this culture. Everyone knows that it's unique. It's a totally unique kind of culture within Canada. I mean, everyone should know that. So these draconian laws don't really do that. But it does, like you're pointing out, it punishes predominantly French kids. That's always the kind of analogy that I think about when I think about like language laws in Quebec, where you've got on most schoolyards in like, you know, bilingual schools, you've got, you know, the English kids, they go and speak French in the classroom, they go speak English out in the schoolyard, or immigrant kids are speaking another language at home. They're speaking you know, Spanish or Arabic or Urdu or like whatever at home. They go to school and they speak French in class, and then they go outside in the schoolyard and speak English. So, but the French kids are just not allowed. They speak French at home. They go speak French to French schools and speak French at school, and they have French friends and they speak French with them. So it's under the guise of preserving this culture, but like you said, it really just, like anyone that's in the public education system, it prevents them from like learning any other languages. Draconian, yeah, the signs and language and the signs and labels, but also education. It's getting more and more strict. Like in order for my kid to even go to English school, you can't just, even if you speak English at home, you can't just decide to put your kid in the English school board, or even if you're two Quebecois kids, or if you're two Quebecois parents, and you want to put your kid in like English school, so it's bilingual, so he's in French immersion. you're not allowed. Like you're just literally not allowed. The only reason that I was allowed is because I went to English school, and in order for my kid to go to English school, and it's immersion, so he's still speaking French like most of the day, even in the English school. The only way he was allowed to go is if I had to contact my old school board in Ontario and get like official documentation proof that I went to school in English. You give that to them, and then they allow them to go to join the school board. You can't just decide to put your kid in a bilingual school or a French immersion program. You have to prove you're part of the historical Anglo minority. That's right. Yeah, it's really silly. Especially considering Montreal. I mean, obviously there's a lot of French speakers in Montreal, but like people from other cultures and English people and people from around the world played a large role in building this city and being part of the culture here. So it's really strange, I think, in Montreal especially, to have these kind of really strict French language rules. Long story short, it's a 300-year-old settler slap fight. Well, it's part of the interesting thing about Quebecois culture, right? Is that the Quebecois people here were both colonizers and they were colonized themselves. They came here as colonizers. They lost a war with the British, and then they themselves were colonized. And there was like discrimination, like in the same way that English, in like the British, like in Ireland, for example. There was like they were treated really poorly by the English, and they were treated like less second-class citizens, which created this rift basically, or that's still ongoing today. Although I don't think younger generations care as much about the cultural stuff. Just like our friends from Spain, the early colonizers that got rolled up. Yeah, exactly. So it's created this weird kind of sentiment, I think, for some people here in Quebec, where they have this kind of like anti-colonial resentment, but they're also like colonizers themselves. So they have a kind of combined mentality. They have both colonizer mentality and this kind of like anti-colonial mindset. It's exactly what makes Quebec a kind of culturally unique and weird place. Yeah, another French politicians appropriate Indigenous struggle and act like French Canadians are the real Indigenous people of Quebec. Yeah, exactly. It's so interesting. The archaic French in Quebec is fascinating. Yeah, it's for sure. It's like this backwater colony. It's like this colony dialect. That's completely different from like the motherland language. Not completely different, but very, very different and distinct. Hello, Sam. What's up? I've been in Montreal for like 15 years and still don't understand the culture because I don't want Quebec TV. It's a completely different universe. For sure, me too. I mean, that's one of the weird things about being like getting involved in politics, because it's like I've never felt any connection to like local politics, like provincial or local politics recently. Really, like if we're in Montreal, we should get more involved in local politics, municipal. But provincially, no, I've never like felt connected really in any way. Anyway, there's a lot of frustrating things about living here, but I also think it's one of the better places to live, in spite of all the problems, I think Montreal is just about one of the very best cities in the world to live in. I don't speak French well enough to get involved in local politics beyond maybe some data entry volunteer work, for sure. I mean, you can't, like, can you go knock doors? You can't really do all that much. It makes finding stable work really difficult as well. That's right, Squatch. Got an apple, got a Honeycrisp going. Edmondo Michel, I don't know if you've been in the chat the last couple of times I've talked about this, but this goes out to anyone that is like watching from the Montreal area or anywhere nearby. Live show. We're going to be doing a live show. It's not really a live TRRS.
You can count on me.
Putting
You're
on
gonna
a
have good
live
old
event.
Rob to talk you through all
You'll
this.
be there? Oh, great.
Granny Smith apples are better.
Wow, Red Wizard. That's controversial. Thanks for 25 months tier 1, but that is a controversial take. I'll defend to the death your right to say it, but, you know, I don't know. I don't know if I agree. So Mona Michel knows about it already, but we're just locking down a date. I think at this point it's going to be early December. Like December 2nd or 3rd. Live show, conversation, sort of live podcast, BYOB party, very cool venue. It's going to be really cool. And I think for people that are like predominantly English speakers who do feel kind of a little disconnected from political life here, I think it could be a good way to get people like out and talking about stuff and getting people together, getting a community going, kind of starting to do these shows more regularly. I think it could be really neat. It's not the Institute yet. The Institute is on its way. What's the date? It's getting locked down. The date's getting locked down right now. I think tentatively it's going to be December 2nd. But as soon as we have a date locked down, I'll let people know. It should be Christmas Eve. Boxing Day is the day after Christmas. That's not Christmas Eve. Boxing Day is the 26th. Hello, Brian. How's it going? I'm just going to... Give me 1 sec. I'm going to... I'm late, but I agree with the Granny Smith apples comment. This is wild. I've never heard this before. I'm just going to take some plates back to the kitchen. 1 sec. I gotta bust my desk. I got a lot of clutter, and I just cleaned up all the clutter the other day. Now I'm right back to having tons of clutter again. Annoying. My can situation is just out of control too. I got a bag of cans outside, and now I have a whole like part of my counter that's just all cans again, and a full bag outside. I don't know what to do. I'm honestly stressed out about it now. For some reason, I feel weird about taking all my cans and just bringing them out and just putting them in the recycling. Just because I know that like usually people will go and pass by and go through those to try and find anything. But I feel like weird about it. Like I want to do it at night when no one can see me. I have like can shame. I have can shame. I don't want to go outside in the daytime with my big giant bag of cans. I feel weird about it. Melt them down and create a knife. That could be kind of cool. I only move my cans at night too. Is this a common thing? Do other people have can shame? I have a weird mental thing about not returning cans. I don't know. I don't like cause I probably have $5 worth of cans, which is useful to go to the grocery store, but I don't like taking all the cans and putting them in the machine. I don't like the weird sticky residue on them. There's just something about it that I just find like really unpleasant. You know? I really don't like it. And I would rather those cans go to someone that really needs that extra $5 at the grocery store. You know? When I take out the trash, it's almost entirely cans. Makes so much noise walking down the stairs. It's so fucked. Massive can shame. Okay, Lodan. Well, this is why we get along. I just take them out, put them out with my recycling. Don't even take them to a depot to get money. That's usually what I do too, but for some reason I'm like embarrassed about it. I guess it shouldn't be that hard, right? It shouldn't be that hard to just take my big bag of cans and just bring it out and put it in the recycling bin. I don't have can shame. I have normal recycling bag shame. No man should eat that much frozen pizza. Our recycling bin is like 85% seltzer cans. No shame. You got those polars too, I bet. Those polars are really something else. Those are good. Nobody should be ashamed of their cans. What has society become? It's a good question. All my cans are zero sugar Starry. It's funny because I saw an ad for Starry, I think when I was watching sports. So that's what they took Sierra Mist and they rebranded it as Starry, right? I got a ruby red grapefruit polar right now. That sounds good. I had a couple of really good kinds of polar when I was in the States over the summer. My windowsill is a graveyard of carbonated water cans. I just have a whole... So my stove is like here. There's the rest of the counter like there. And then there's like a little side space with like a counter. And it's just cans. The whole thing is cans. It's stupid. Like that's space that I could be using to like do stuff. Still need to Baja Blast off. I would drink more Baja Blast if they had a diet version. I've never seen the diet version. I just discovered polar. I had a really good, the kind of polar in the summer when I was in Jersey. The orange and vanilla. It's almost like a creamsicle kind of flavor. Chicago DNC 24 will get you a blast. Okay, that sounds good. Good. A Baja Blast. We know. We need that kitchen TRRS stream. I can do that sometime. I would like to do it. I would like to do a cooking stream sometime. I just need to figure out how to stream from my phone properly. I would be happy to do it because I'm cooking often and I love to do it. It would be fun for me to do. The Rob Rousseau cooking show. I might as well diversify. Gotta diversify. I'm really always just doing variations of the same meal, and I don't get tired of it. Spin drifts are good, but too healthy. We don't need real fruit juice in our spicy water. So spin drift has like real fruit juice in there. You could get a stand for your phone. I have a Pixel stand and it's great. I think I just need a new phone, number one. I have a Pixel 2, which at this point is pretty old, and I'm getting to a point where I actually really need a new phone. So for both camera and mic quality and battery life, I think that would probably be ideal. It is old. It's a really good phone. Like, it's worked really well for years. I've never really felt the need to upgrade, but I think it's about time. It's about time. I know, Dakadoon. I would love to get a Huawei. I would like to phone with a better mic as well. Like, when I try to film like TikToks or something on my phone, it just sounds awful. I have the original Pixel put away somewhere. I have one too, but I can't turn it back on. I wanted to turn it on just for the camera.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
TRRS MRX.
Don Dark Sony, thanks for 35 months. Tier 1. Ooh, very close. Very close to that 3-year badge, the Pearl sub badge. Thanks, Don Dark Sony, for all the support over 3 entire years. On that note, I gotta say, now I actually have to prepare for this. I've had time to prepare for this, and I have not taken the time to do it. Now I need to prepare for it, but on Wednesday, folks, Wednesday, November 1st, it is the season premiere. I guess that makes tomorrow the season finale. It's the season 4 premiere of TRRS on Wednesday. We're going to have new emotes, new alerts, new backgrounds, all kinds of good stuff. New wardrobe, probably not. No. I still keep my Pixel 2 as a backup phone every time I drop a new one on the floor. It's actually really frustrating because I have never cracked a phone screen before. Never. And just the other day, I finally, after all these years, is this like, I don't know if you can even see it. It's the crack is right there. Yeah, see? Just the other day for the first time, and I was like, oh man. Rob doesn't have an iPhone. Do people really do this like Apple supremacy thing? Like, maybe it's just a generational thing. I've never really encountered that. I've just never used Apple products. I don't really like them. There's apparently this whole thing with like the text bubbles and everything, the green and the blue bubbles or whatever with iMessage, and it's like, fucking grow up. Grow up. There's kids getting like ostracized from friend groups because they wrecked the group chats with their green bubbles or whatever. Like, really? Bubbles? Bubble colors? Is that really like what people are paying all the extra money for? With also having like no ability to like customize or like do anything with your phone? I don't know. I actually did think you had an iPhone, but it's because I figured you were more of a person that used to be a music Mac snob and became a boomer about it. No, I've never, like, I do like their music programs, and in fact, like, I do have an iPad, and that's one of the main things that I've used the iPad for, is just the GarageBand stuff, which Apple does do a lot better. But all my music, though, I make on my PC on FL Studio, so I barely even use that. Steve Jobs killed himself with a juice cleanse. Well, that's the thing. Was unfortunate enough to have cancer, I would simply like get chemotherapy and surgery and do what the doctors told me I needed to do. I'm not a big super genius though, I guess. But yeah, I would simply get the cancer treatments rather than like drinking juice. Anyway, no, I don't use Apple products. I do have an iPad. I use that sometimes, I guess, but I'm going to upgrade. I think I would like to get the brand new Pixel that just came out. And considering I use it so much for work stuff, I'm sure I could claim a bunch of it on my taxes, but it's a big investment. Drinking juche. We don't do juice cleanses, we do juche cleanses over here. Greasy groob. Anyway, that's been an hour of chit chat. I think it's probably about time that we dive into, talking about what we're supposed to talk about today. It's been a full hour of chatting it up. Chemotherapy is for troglodytes. Only the big super geniuses. Drink juice instead. Love the chit chat hour, unironically. I do too, frankly. If I felt like it was sustainable, I would just do this all day. But the people come here for news and politics and analysis. That's what puts butts in seats, as they say. I use an iPhone because that's what I've always used, and I don't want to change all my little apps. And I don't even they make good products. Like the cameras are good. It's not like I have some big personal investment in it. If you use those products, that's wonderful. But that's what I don't get, this whole factionalism. I don't think we should be factional about products that we're buying. I think that actually is kind of like a negative kind of social invention. Being super factional about which products you have. That person buys different products than me. Making it part of your identity. I think that's fucked up. I think it's weird to do that. About any product. Unless the products you're buying were made in occupied Palestine. Well, that's, of course, that's a different thing. It is the consumer propaganda. What does this say about me and my identity? Are you an Apple or an Android guy? Are you a PlayStation or an Xbox guy? Are you a Beta or VHS back in the day? I'm a Ford. Are you a Ford or are you a Chevy? That's me. That's my identity. Blu-ray or HD DVD? And I must admit that I'm kind of I do have kind of brand loyalty. I had the PlayStation 1, 2, 3, and 4, and maybe eventually I'll get the Yeta 5. I have always had Android phones, but I don't care. I don't judge people for purchasing different products. It's fine. Apple just did it to turn the brand into a full religion successfully. Yeah, it's not only Apple that's done that, but they've been very successful about that. But promoting this kind of this is your lifestyle, this is your identity. Currently watching you on a PlayStation 5 on the living room TV. It looks so crisp. I think it's so funny and cool that people are out there watching me on their big TVs. I find that wonderful, actually. It's very like Big Brother kind of situation. I think ideally that's how this would go. Instead of just being a one-way transmission, you would also be transmitting to me, so I could have a screen of all the different people and I could view and I could look into your homes. If this was more of a two-way thing. So I could just see, even when I was not streaming, I could just check in on what you're up to, you know? See Snacks hanging out on the couch. I would love to see Snacks. Snacks. Hi, Snacks. Hi, Snacks. We watch you on the big TV because you're a news source, so that's fucking great, actually. You do not want a camera into my home. Oh, but I do. Meow. Oh, but I do. If you stream on weekends, I normally put you on the warehouse screens instead of news. 4 screens. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. She's sleeping right now. Okay. I don't want to disturb Snacks. I'm watching on my phone. You look little. All kinds of different... Man, sometimes when I start thinking about this, I start feeling kind of weird. I'm being perceived. I'm being perceived in so many different ways right now. There's so many people perceiving me. Little Rob, you're going to summon Orb Lady if you're going to talk like that. Is right around in my pocket at work. I love it. I'm your little friend that lives in your pocket. I'm often minimizing this window so I can hear you but not see you. What do you think about that? The thing is, I find it strange, but I like it also. I like that there's people doing their jobs and you have them off in the corner there. You got a little corner of Rob open. I think there's something kind of cool about that. Audio only gang. We got a number of audio only gangs. That's good. Billionaire is paying me to watch you. Wonderful. And there's a billionaire paying me to be here. But he takes a big fistful of my income, though, at the same time. I'm hen picking duplicates for a deadbeat project that's going nowhere at my job, and you're on my second monitor. We love it. That sounds great. I did have my Bluetooth disconnect one time and Rob started playing from my phone speaker. That must have been good. What was it? Was it rant yelling about Stalin or something? I'm listening to you as I lay down to nap. How does that feel? It's a little weird. It's not that I don't like it. It's a little weird though. And now, Dr. Maggot, it's time to relax. It's time to relax. You feel your eyelids getting very heavy. Dr. Maggot's a very sleepy guy. Very sleepy guy. That's my nightmare. Some leftist screaming about Palestine to my office. It's one of those moments at like the party when all of a sudden all the voices die down and the song changes, and there's this brief moment of silence, and you just hear my voice going like, "And that's why Israel does not have a right to exist." You're like, and whoop. Everyone looks at you. I'm just listening to this because of how I disagree with it, actually. You might be wondering how... Yep, that's me. You might be wondering how we got here. Something else I can talk about as well, and I guess we are doing an extended chit chat here, but over the weekend, I've been really, I am the leftist screaming about Palestine in my office, and good on you. I think more people should be screaming about Palestine. Excellent timing on the drop in the music on stream. Did that happen? I didn't even think about that. So over the weekend though, I've been really wanting to play that game Carrion. I don't know if you're familiar with Carrion. I had heard about it a couple weeks ago, and I've just been waiting for it to. I knew it would go on sale this month because it's like a spooky horror game, and it's on sale right now. And really highly recommend. It's like $7 right now. It's like $7 to get Carrion. Really highly recommend, if you're into that kind of stuff, to pick it up. It's really cool. Carrion Cross. I wouldn't call it spooky. I don't know. I really like it. I really like it, and genuinely, like, the creature in the game is, I find it very unsettling. In both how it looks and moves, and the sound design, the little creepy tentacle sound effects. It genuinely makes me feel like, it kind of makes me feel sick to my stomach just to even play it. The game is basically The Thing did nothing wrong. Yeah, that's right. Really, it would be cool to be like The Thing from The Thing, but if you could really play on the whole paranoia thing and impersonating people, that's like probably a different game, but really, really enjoy it though. I really had a good time with that, and I'm making some good progress. Nobody casually asked me, how are you at work anymore, because I'll give them a download of what's happening on the streets at camps, and that's not what they were looking for. Yeah, they're just like, I was just hoping we could have kind of a meaningless interaction here and we could just move on with our day. Really enjoy Carrion though. And yeah, I was eating a whole bunch of people. It is funny, you can use one of your little prehensile tentacles to go like infect somebody and create a little zombie. They can go ahead and do your bidding too. That's a pretty cool strategy in that game, to take over some guy with a gun and then just go into a room and have the guy just waste all his colleagues and friends. There was the Thing video game that tried to do that, but it was pretty garbage. I always really was interested in playing that. I never got around to it. Hey, how are you? I'm great. A Palestinian baby was just now incinerated. Have a good one. I mean, we definitely should be talking to our friends and coworkers about this, but yeah. Fit check. Rob's looking extra Canadian. That's right. I busted out my special plaid. I busted out my special plaid today. This collar doesn't stay, too. How are you doing, Orb Lady? People were just calling me Tiny Rob because I sometimes exist on people's little phone screens. What do you think about that? I've been playing the newly updated Cyberpunk 2077, and it's so good. It's a shame it released so badly. I really did enjoy Cyberpunk, but I feel like I'm missing something. I don't know if I'm going to go back to it. I'm kind of stuck. I feel like I'm not leveled up enough to do any mission. Every time I try to do a mission, I just get instantly fucking owned so badly. I feel like I'm not doing something, or I'm missing something. Just need to get you a Montreal Canadiens to complete the look. You want me to complete the look? One sec. There we go. I'm one of these guys now. You know, I've lived here for like many years, and every single winter, I'm always like, man, it's so cold. I'm not muted. I know that I'm not muted. Every single winter, I'm like, I'm so cold. I need to do something about this. And then this is the year that I'm finally like, fuck this. I'm a balaclava guy now. You know? Balaclava guy for life. No, I'm about that life now. Robs a bank only to be identified by his glasses. Yeah. Up the RA. Hell yeah. They do go hard. Get you some good... I do have long johns as well. I'm ready for this winter. Okay, 20 years into Quebec, Montreal winters, I'm ready for this one. Finally. How long will Rob be able to stream in the balaclava? Well, probably not too much longer because I got to talk about like real stuff soon. I couldn't see his face when he was wearing those communist prescription frames. Everyone knows Christopher Clues. The world's only, not even communist, but Stalinist eyewear company. What about this? What do you think about this? You do need some RX sports goggles instead if you're going to go around doing crime. These are quite distinctive as well. When my custom character is in a cutscene. I wonder if people click my thumbnail if this is going to bring people into the community. What group would this person be giving a communique from? If I start giving communiques from the Rousseau Institute, which would be funny because like if I had that would actually be a pretty good bit. If I had like a organization that was literally using my own name, but then I broadcast like this, like I was trying to protect my identity, that would be funny. That would be a good bit. Have you gotten through the introduction in Chapter 1 for how Europe underdeveloped Africa yet? No, but if I get a deadline for when I need to do that, I will do it. When are we starting to talk about it? Thursday. Okay, I can do that.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you, Jules, for 2 months of Tier 1. Okay, no problem, Marty. I got it. What's going on here? A great question. I'm not even really sure. It really is very warm now, honestly. It's called Monday, isn't it, folks? We're having a secret meeting. I'm gonna be good to go this winter. Like, my face is very warm right now. You know what? I think I need to get this like reinforced. It's only like 3 or 4 threads like holding this whole part together. I want to reinforce that. It's not just one string, it's a couple. It's like 4 strings or something. I'd be dying of heat wearing that indoors. It's pretty chilly today. It's not super chilly inside, but just slap some duct tape on her, bud. It's going to be 83 here today. Then tomorrow highs in the 50s. And by Halloween night, we'll touch the 20s. Yeah, good. That's normal. It is snowing there today. Yeah, it is. Dude, you know what you got to do? Reinforce it like Diamond Dogs did with metal plating. I do not know how that would work exactly. I really don't know how that would work. I'm actually surprised this isn't just normal Canadian fall and winter attire. I was too shy to wear it today. It's pretty cold today, but like I think this is like when it gets to be in like the minus 5, minus 10 level is when I'm going to start wearing this regularly. It's quite comfortable, honestly. I don't know why I had a stigma about this for years for some reason. I would just be so cold and I'd be like, of course I can't be a balaclava guy. I would just be freezing cold every single winter. Wearing like a spring jacket with like a hoodie and a toque and gloves. What am I doing? Why did I live like that for years? I lived like that for years. No more. I'm not playing this game anymore. Condemn the IRA. We're weird, bad social animals that do dumb things because we think another person might disapprove. That is true. Yeah, that is true. And I guess you get, like, I'm 40 now. You get to be older. It's just like, I'm not playing this game anymore. I don't care. Remember when in high school you were not cool if you wore a toque? I didn't, like, we wore toques. I don't think we had that, but there are all kinds of weird, like, regional, unwritten little rules like that. It's cool to get frostbite. It's cool and badass to get frostbite. Giving less and less of a shit is one of the cooler parts about getting older and crotchetier. Well, and ironically, then it becomes cool. When you don't, that's what being cool is when you don't care. When you don't care what others think of you. Then it is cool. That's the ultimate irony of that. It takes you years to figure this out sometimes. I just wear a hat and a scarf. I think it'd have to be minus 20 before I consider a balaclava. No way. As soon as it gets like below minus like 8, I'm wearing this now. For sure. I admittedly care really hard what others think and don't know how to stop caring. You just gotta let it go. Or, if you do care, you have to pretend not to care. Because I admit that I'm sometimes swayed by some similar things, especially with the online stuff, you know? People say, like, you develop on kind of an online platform. People start saying all kinds of things about you, and it sucks, and I don't like it. And it makes me feel like shit. But the more that you act like it's bugging you, or that it's getting to you, the more you let those people win. So it's really just a matter of, like, maintaining this sort of illusion of not caring. My ex used to make fun of me for wearing 3 jackets to walk to school. And it's like, I'm not going to be uncomfy just to be hot all the time. I gotta say, Orb Lady, I'm a little confused about why you didn't just have one jacket that was warmer. But I wouldn't judge you. I would never dream of judging you. Multi-layers is more versatile. I'm a layer guy. Look at me. I'm a layer gang. I love layers. I invented layers, okay? You don't need to tell me about layers. Believe me. Like, look at me. Because it's still cold in the school, so I can still wear the under jackets. Yeah, okay. I guess it's like, you say jacket, like I would have no issue with like t-shirt, plaid, hoodie, jacket, which I guess technically is like 3 jackets. Rob's like an onion with all these layers. That's right, I'm just like an onion. You peel away layer after stinky layer until you're just weeping over the sink. Rob's layers are a balaclava, his birthday suit, and slippers. I have been, not only am I a balaclava guy now, I've been considering becoming a robe guy. I have like a bathrobe that I do wear, but I don't wear it very often. I do kind of want to get one of those like robes that's little, that's like above the knee. One of those above the knee robes with a little like pattern on it or something. I would think I would like that. I want to get like a big comfy one. That's what I have now. I have like a comfy robe. I would like to get more of a stylish robe. At work in winter, I wear one-piece wool long underwear. That sounds nice. I do have some long underwear, but I think some wool ones like that would be good. The robe and balaclava would be... If I had this robe with like a pattern... If I had this balaclava with like a patterned silky robe, now that's a look. It's got a poop flap on it too, so it's one of those old school ones. I think I gotta go take the plunge there as well. Finish look with yellow dishcloth. That's the Tyler Durden. Is that what you're referencing, Lodane? You want to finish her off? I saw a woman's GRWM. It seems like a typo. She had a wool underlayer for working outside that looked super warm. I think I gotta go down that path. That and Disco Elysium both. Okay, good. Get ready with me. Okay, so is that like a TikTok thing? Not sure if we're ready to exit the chit-chat zone, but did you see that Time article about Zelensky feeling betrayed now? He's literally doing the meme. We do have a couple of things to look at with that. Although I do think they're still getting a huge chunk of money from the U.S. government. Maybe it's going to be the last one. I don't know. They're still planning on sending Ukraine another like $100 billion. But there is something interesting going on as well. I don't know if people have noticed that there's these like pro-Ukraine propaganda accounts that are all like shuddering. There's like 4 or 5 different like Ukraine heavy Twitter accounts that are all like, well, I guess I don't want to be part of Twitter anymore. It's like they're literally taking the funds away from the Ukraine Twitter accounts to promote Zionist Twitter accounts. Yeah, they're all pivoting to Israel, but it's different people sometimes. There's literally people that have been talking about Ukraine. And they're like, well, I guess I'm just going to stop doing this now for no reason. Yeah, all the propaganda budget's dried up. That's right. They all got shut down because of you, Balaclava Rob. I mean, listen, some people like to talk about doing subversive streaming. There's no one else that does it like this, though. Do a get ready with me? I could. I mean, I put thought into my fits every day. The John Brown account supporting Israel was perhaps the funniest. For sure, John Brown's Stan account. The more I think about this, the more I'm taking Israel's side. It's like, okay, good job. I think it's about time that I take this off now, right? An hour and a half of chit-chat. I think it's about time that I take off this balaclava, isn't it? Just got here, leave it on for 1 minute longer. Okay, we got another minute. Another minute of balaclava, Rob. It's always a grift. I remember watching a documentary about the Trump election and social media. Apolitical people around the world were running Trump meme farms because it made them money. They'd pivot as things changed. Yeah. For sure. Yeah, it's part of it. Like, that's part of it is probably state sponsored. Maybe there's just people that are just like, wow, I get lots of likes and retweets for talking about this right now, so I'm going to start focusing entirely on that. So it's either a grift or it's like an official kind of state sponsored propaganda campaign or like a PSYOP campaign. The greatest minute of my life. Next time you're going to guest star on something, you could shoot a Get Ready With Me as you pick your fit and put on the very manly layer of broadcasting production manly face powder to erase the lies told by the camera's attempt to defame you. You're still pushing this, eh? You think I should do some face powder? What is that even? Like when you're putting powder on your face, like what even is that? It just makes you less shiny? Is that it? We'll see. I will think about the powder. I don't think I'm that shiny. Am I that shiny? I remember that Bellingcat account directly got in a shit fit with me, specifically because I dared to question their intentions. It was pretty insane they got that petty. Bellingcat is funny to me because like they've openly, it's not even like some kind of Russian conspiracy theory or something. They've openly admitted to taking money from the NED. And like if you're going to admit that, like you're going to be totally open and transparent about taking money from the NED, well then people are going to question your intentions, and they should. And in fact, no one should take anyone seriously that has taken any money, even $1, from that organization. My favorite Twitter accounts are those that only tweet against like one content creator. Then they get burnt out on it because how you can make your entire personality hating a Twitch streamer. It's weird, isn't it? It is really weird. Like someone mentioned, certain grifters that just constantly do this now. Certain former Communist Party members that now pretty much just get mad about streamers all day and police the bad streamers for being too or for not being harsh enough on the America's enemies. Pretty sad state of affairs. And I like, that's one thing I try to avoid, is getting sucked down into the drama world, responding to that kind of bullshit. Sometimes I do. I know, like, there's been times in the past when people have called me out and I've spent time talking about it and people tell me that it's like a waste of time or it's not good to do. But sometimes when people specifically come after you and say things about you, it's hard not to like respond to that. Hangs out with Steven twice and I can barely keep herself from using slurs on stream. And like they were like enemies for a while. It's really strange. Strange behavior. It's like now she's just freaking about Hassan all the time. About Hassan is like is supporting Hamas and supporting Putin and all this stuff, and saying like he's never been in a communist party. I've been in a communist party. I was in a communist party and I left under controversial circumstances, and now I spend all day attacking people that are too deferential to America's enemies. So it's like, what are you lecturing people about? I don't care if you used to be in a communist party and now you go and spend all your time ensuring that no one ever adopts the same kind of views about foreign policy or internationalism or imperialism. Then like, why are you bragging about that? Why are you bragging about that? I don't really think it's strange. It's the same strategy as Steven, is go after Hassan and it gets viewers. I guess so. I mean, people love that drama bullshit. The Cuban nurse was smoking a cigarette. That's right. Yeah. Hassan is a tanky, I scream at the grocery clerk as they walk towards security. Ma'am, this is a Wendy's. Ma'am, this is a Wendy's. Hassan is a demsoak. Ugopnik was complimenting him on keeping an open funnel, i.e. letting his audience keep moving left. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I think we've had some criticisms of Hassan's commentary over the years, but like overall, for someone with a huge audience that he has, I think he does really fantastic stuff a lot of the time. I don't always agree. Sometimes he'll say or do things that I don't think are great or that he shouldn't be doing, but I do think that, like, especially when it comes to this particular issue. And he's been softening up a lot on the China stuff as well, which has been good. He's become a China... There's kind of like an audience capture thing where he was kind of worried about the not being perceived as a China enjoyer or China respecter, and he seems to be a lot more comfortable with bringing his audience there, which I think is good as well. As a China respecter. He was attacked constantly for ages for not being angry and hateful towards China. Well, that's exactly what like Destiny's community and Steven's community and like Vosh's community, that they're obsessed with, because they're these like China watchers who believe every single thing that is told to us about from our weapons manufacturer sponsored think tanks about China and what it represents. They just like police every single thing that he says about that. And I'm glad that he's not letting that change his viewpoint on it. How long have I been wearing this now? Quite a long time. I've been wearing this for quite a long time now. I don't want to keep it on though. It's like it is. I am inside right now. Everyone, the community seems united on this. The community is united. The community wants me to keep this on. Long enough for me to make a meme about you being a wet bandit. Re-education camps equals genocide, and genocide equals proportional response. I mean, it genuinely is amazing, Orb Lady, to see the people that have been so fixated on this, like, Uyghur genocide narrative. Being like, no, I think mass bombing people in a 2 million person prison camp is actually good, and it's fine to do that. I've seen people doing the thing like, don't, just because China's starting to have a decent, in terms of, like, major countries, China has one of the more, like, progressive positions on this, even though, like I've talked about, I think they need to go further. But then people are like, don't start giving China too much credit. Let's not forget about the Uyghur genocide. And it's like, how can you say Uyghur genocide and not just want to, like, fucking die of embarrassment when you're seeing, like, you really want to compare the treatment of ethnic minorities in Xinjiang versus Palestine? Really? And yeah, it doesn't mean that it's nice to, like, put large numbers of people in this kind of, like, non-optional re-education facility. I get that that's, like, a lot. That's heavy-handed, absolutely. But, like, there's still no comparison. There's zero comparison whatsoever. And again, just look at the ways that, like, this idea of terrorism and separatism is dealt with, you know, not just by re-education, but by massive investment as well, and development. You know, like we've been talking about when it comes to Xinjiang, for most people that live in that region, whatever ethnic group they're part of, whether they're Uyghurs or whatever, there's multiple other ethnic groups that live there. Most people will say, over the last 20 years, my life has gotten better. My life has improved. Can you say the same thing about people in Gaza? No, of course not. War on drugs on black people, presumably more people than the Uyghurs. Yes, and the American prison system is barbaric. It is absolutely barbaric. There's people dying every single day in the US prison system. Disproportionately people of color. People being tortured to death every single day in that system. Which was not happening. Even if you want to criticize China's treatment of Uyghurs or say that it's heavy-handed, zero evidence that there's been anything remotely similar. Like, they can't even name, like, one person. We need to have re-education camps in the US and Canada for right-wing reactionaries. They're the ones shooting up churches and schools. I mean, not even right-wing reactionaries, but I think a lot of people. You just look around our society. Look around our society. In, like, no matter where you are, if you're in Canada or the US or any Western country, and tell yourself, honestly, look in the mirror and tell yourself, we don't need a cultural revolution. We don't need re-education camps. We'll just have a revolution and then everything's going to get better. Like, really, do you really believe that? Does anyone really believe that? Look at the mass bombing of children that we're seeing right now and all the people that we're surrounded with that fully support it. And ask yourself, do we really, can we have a revolution without having a cultural revolution at the same time? Without having mass re-education? No. We live in an incredibly brainwashed society. And for any major progressive change to happen in our society, it's going to involve a major cultural revolution and mass re-education if it ever happens. That's just the reality. And then when we see other countries actually doing that, we're like, and we wag our fingers at them. It's insane the national discourse on ICE has evaporated. The horrible conditions that we were calling concentration camps, kids ripped away from families, migrants being assaulted, just horrendous. And as anyone who covers like immigration issues will tell you, Joe Biden has kept the vast majority of those like really draconian Trump era Stephen Miller immigration policies in place to total silence, zero condemnation. And the media still acts like we have an open border. Yes. No, it's insane. I think it's been, honestly, it's one of the things about that I've noticed just from like getting older. It's really radicalizing. I think when you observe this kind of like election cycle. I'm not saying we should have little installations for re-education, but yeah, they should be big. They should be big installations. We got lots of people. Now it's an open border for Hamas. Yeah, it's Hamas, ISIS, MS-13. They're all working together now. Ironically, Uyghurs are more harmed by the U.S. than China, both by bans on Xinjiang imports and by literally detaining and torturing them in Guantanamo. Yeah. I mean, that's what all those sanctions on China to protect Uyghurs were about, is making sure that they can't have jobs and economic stability. Because of these accusations about slave labor and all this stuff. I need more leftists talking about the sins of China. These things are very important to me. A car dealer in Indiana. Exactly. It's not enough that all our media is talking about that and our political class is talking about it. We got to get the Twitch streamers on there as well. I was making some other point back there as well, and I lost my train of thought. Reminds me of the seal hunting uproar that was going on that seemed to die off quick once it was found out that it was one of the only incomes indigenous groups are allowed to have. I mean, it's when you live in a society that we live in a society, when you live in a society that relies so heavily on factory farming, which for all like as you is observably so environmentally horrific, cruel, and unusual, like disease running rampant. It's just an awful, grotesque system. And then to like ignore that and focus on like indigenous groups hunting seals, like that's just racism, you know? I can't believe you're critiquing a society while living in one. It's true. Yeah. Very hypocritical. And then when we have a pandemic and one of those establishments is crippled, food distribution is heavily impeded. Yeah, it's the worst way of feeding people. It's inefficient, it's dangerous, it's bad for people's health, it's horrific to the animals. There's nothing about it that's good. You've got little kids working in these like meat packing plants. You know, it's just horrible. It's honestly just a horrible system. I can't tell you how often I get that you criticize yet you live in one shit. Genuinely. Oh, seriously, yeah. You know, it's the same thing like working in independent media. It's like you're trying to talk about like political issues that are meaningful to you. It's like, oh, you just want to make money. You're just doing this to make money, and it's like, well, it's like I do have to pay rent, unfortunately. I wish that it was not this way. I would really prefer not to have this situation, but I do have to like make money to live. If we want to change our system so I have my rent covered, then I won't have to worry about that as much. So what is the retort to Xinjiang? I think for me, Pizzi, I always just talk about the war on terror. I think that's the best retort, because you're talking about two different ways to combat extremism and terrorism. You know, you have the Western way, which you can see on full display in Palestine right now. But you have the Western way of invading sovereign countries, bombing and overthrowing them, creating these like disastrous failed states, killing millions of people, creating 32 million refugees, drone bombing weddings and funerals and hospitals and schools, and like just doing the most barbaric shit you can imagine, establishing black site torture prisons around the world. You know, that's how we dealt with extremism and terrorism for 20 years, and we're still doing it. Versus saying like, let's combat terrorism, extremism by making people go into these vocational schools, giving them language skills and other skills that they need to like make a living. Let's invest billions of dollars into the places where these people live and build big infrastructure projects, transit. Let's like make it so everyone's life is improving. And that's how we're going to like deal with extremism. And we're still going to come down with a heavy hand. We're going to come down with a heavy hand because as people are dying, people are getting killed. There's been multiple terrorist attacks. We're not going to take that lightly. But let's couple that with huge investment and making sure that people have jobs and making people sure that their material needs are being met. And that's going to fight this extremism problem. So those are the two methods. Like you can find things about the China method and criticize it, but like if you just hold up these two methods for dealing with terrorism and extremism side by side, which one is more damaging, which one is more violent, which one is more cruel, it's pretty obvious that it's our method. Undermining the very cause terrorists use to justify themselves. It's crazy. I know. It's crazy. But that's always when people want to talk about that, that's always my method. And frankly, what's going on in Palestine right now should be example enough. You know, that all our criticisms of China and the Uyghur genocide and all that stuff was never based in like good faith arguments or criticisms. It was never based in like reality. It was always political. It was always about economic reasons. It was never about like human rights or any of that stuff. I think the very fact that our government is fully supportive of the mass bombing of Gaza should be enough, I think, to discredit any, not even about China, but any criticisms about human rights or using human rights as a wedge issue for any of these in these geopolitical situations. I think the guy that just tried to troll the stream should go ahead and join the IDF. It's pretty pathetic to try to troll Twitch chats promoting the IDF. If you really support the IDF and you're against tankies, go and join the IDF, and you can go and do it yourself. Go join. There's still time to join the ground invasion in Gaza. I'm sure that's going to go really well. What's a tanky? We don't even need to go down that path. It's nothing. It's meaningless. It's basically just a Marxist-Leninist. I mean, that's basically it. They also got banned by Marcus. What a sad life. I can't imagine, like, I don't even have time to go on Twitch and watch people that I like. Like, I love Lucid Stream. I love Marcus. Benny. Brian, aka Lennon Smesh. Subversive History. There's all kinds of Twitch channels that I think are fantastic. And I just don't have time to, like, watch the stuff that I like and support the people that I like. I really can't imagine taking time out of your day to go to streams of people that you don't like. And, like, just getting banned. You spend your whole day doing that? I guess. It's just strange to me. Like, enjoy your day. Get an actual hobby. Like, paint a painting. Write some poetry. Do your own Twitch channel. I'll be at the March for Palestine with some of those lads this weekend. I'm really looking forward to that, actually. I'm going to go to the one in Montreal. I kind of wanted to go to the one this weekend, and I had parenting stuff come up, so I wasn't able to, but I am going to go. There's that major one next Saturday, and I think everyone, like, no matter where you live, you should go out to that. I think it's really shaping up to be a really historic day next Saturday, so... The tag is still untucked. No, it's not. It's like, it's part of the thing. It's like, it goes on the outside there. I just called prison officials to get my friend in prison out of solitary. A much better use of one's time. Seriously, like, there's so many things you can be doing. Yeah, we could do that, Sam. We'll be in touch about that. I like how you said 1 more minute balaclava and you're still wearing it. Well, I kind of like it, honestly. I'm kind of into it. I don't feel like I can really shift into fully, like, news mode like this, though. It's not even that cold. Like, it's 2 degrees right now. 2 degrees Celsius. Like, my face is quite warm now. Is there heat out? No, it's not. It's not, actually. So I'm quite warm, honestly. Okay, well, I guess I should take it off at some point. At some point, but now is not that time. It's like the Leo DiCaprio thing in Wolf of Wall Street. I'm not taking it off. I'm not fucking taking it off. I am really looking forward to wearing this outside. Okay, I think that's good. I think we're good. Just 1 moment. Whoa, hello. Hello, I just went to have an extended lie down, actually. I was feeling a little lightheaded. An extended lie down? Who's what have you been doing this whole time? What have you been doing this whole time, chat? I'm not muted. Stop doing this. It's confusing me. Jesus. People always trying to confuse me on here. Oh, Christ. Okay, well, let's transition into like what to the today's Palestine content. A number of stuff over the weekend that I bookmarked and have to look at here, so we might as well focus more heavily on this. We were just talking to that nice Hamas fella. It's crazy how The Onion has been doing better commentary on this than like most mainstream journalism. It feels like the mid 2000s we're talking about Jon Stewart again. Only Jon Stewart never did anything coming to this level of like subversive. Israel warns Gaza still harboring hundreds of doctors. It's funny as well with like there's stuff about Ukraine as well. Saying like Zelensky's like picking all the staplers and all the office supplies while he's in America, and all the people being like, this is like a Putin. When you're accusing The Onion of being like Putin propaganda, I think that's when you've like lost it. You have really lost it. Michael Tracy is running laps around LibJournos. The bar is not that high. That's true. And sometimes Michael Tracy has good takes, and now is one of those times. He's kind of one of these like kind of conservative contrarians. So a lot of the time says stuff that I find really stupid, but sometimes when it comes to these issues, he'll say things that I think are absolutely correct. I mean, we talked about the whole anti-Semitism thing and like Corbyn. I remember when AOC and like Jeremy Corbyn had like a back and forth, and it was like, oh, this is so cool. This is back when I had like confidence in like progressive entryism in the Democratic Party, when I still thought that was like a viable strategy that might lead to good things eventually. And they had that little exchange on Twitter. And then immediately you had all the people coming in being like, I'm sorry, AOC, but he's actually a dangerous terrorist supporter, an anti-Semite. And instead of being like, no, he's not, I think he's cool, she was like, your concerns are valid, and I'm going to hold space for everyone that wants to talk about this, and like, let's meet in my office to discuss further, which was one of the moments as well that I started to lose confidence in her as like a viable sort of progressive political figure. And Michael Tracy in that comment was like, actually, no, it's just, you don't need to meet up. It's a total scam. And it's a total smear that's not based on anything. And I was like, that's true, Michael. Sometimes Michael Tracy is very correct. Fetterman minions kicking people out of bars. Yeah, for sure. All the progressive faves now. John Fetterman, poor small bean John Fetterman with his depression and his hoodie and his shorts. I love how he has like a basketball short honor guard now. So when people come up to him and ask him about supporting genocide, he's got his like basketball short minions coming in to assault them. Really good stuff, yeah. The Adam Sandler division, yes. The Sandler battalion. The Onion has the best take on the conflict they have for years. This is still just as relevant today as it ever has been. If this is getting rickrolled, I'm going to be really
providing you with the knowledge to land yourself in an extremely uncomfortable conversation at a party with a very opinionated acquaintance. We now present The Onion Explains the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict began in the wake of the devastating violence of World War II, when international leaders came to the sudden realization that the world no longer had a non-stop carnage-filled conflict with which to entertain itself, and decided that the best course of action would be to lock Israelis and Palestinians in bloody, unrelenting combat for their own amusement. Global leaders worked tirelessly to engineer a conflict so intractable that it could last indefinitely, with a near constant stream of entertaining destruction for many generations to come. The UN's plan has been so successful that it has resulted in some of the most thoroughly enjoyable displays of ideological bloodshed the world has ever seen, including the edge-of-your-seat fun of the Six-Day War, the non-stop satisfaction of the First Intifada, and the widely beloved series of Jerusalem bus bombings. While the conflict has raged for almost 3/4 of a century, both Israelis and Palestinians actually favor an identical solution for ending hostilities. Israeli and Palestinian leaders have made it clear that they see eye to eye on virtually every facet of the proposed solution, including such provisions as seizing all territory, watching the opposition burn in righteous fire, and building a unified nation on the core.
See, this is funny, but like I would actually disagree that this is very good coverage, because this is still like making a sort of both sides argument, which is not accurate. Like it is funny and it's probably better than a lot of coverage over it, but I think it is framing this like this idea of like, oh, this intractable conflict that where Israelis and Palestinians just slaughter each other. That's not really an example of like what has been going on for the last several decades. And anyway, this whole thing of like Palestine's favored solution, bathe in blood of enemy, total political control, eradicate every man, woman, and child on the other side. I don't think that's like what their favored solution is. I think that's what from the river to the sea means. It doesn't mean bathe in the blood of the enemy. It doesn't mean forever banishing every Jewish person from living there. It means one state where everyone has the same democratic rights. You know? That's what from the river to the sea mean. That's the big scary slogan that you're not allowed to ever say. The Palestinians want to be free and go back to their grandfathers' homes that were lost. Yeah. I don't think this is a totally accurate way of looking at this. I mean, it's The Onion, so it shouldn't be accurate, but I would push back a little bit on, what that means. You should say from the river to the sea, Hamas is bad. That's right. That's when you really that's when they start listening to you, when you say that.
Of the enemy, and yet they still haven't come any closer to putting a stop to the conflict. However, many Israelis and Palestinians remain hopeful that significant breakthroughs in recent years could mean that their mutual goal of total annihilation of the other side will be realized within their lifetimes. Given the lengthy and brutal history between the two rivals, there will never be peace in the region. But hey, that doesn't mean Palestinians and Israelis shouldn't try. Everyone needs something that gives them a sense of purpose. And if getting together every once in a while to have a chat about ending their fighting is what's going to give Israelis and Palestinians a reason to roll out of bed, then that's just great. Taking up rollerblading, building a ship in a bottle, negotiating a ceasefire built on 1967 borders. All of these are wonderful ways to keep yourself active and healthy. And it doesn't matter if the ceasefire fails to hold and hundreds more innocent people die. Because you know what? You tried. And that's what really matters. So forget about
After
the
this video,
ingrained
joining the
hate
war
and
against The
bloodlust.
Onion. Yeah,
and just
unfortunately,
be
I'm going to
you.
have to say this is an L for The
Palestinians
Onion,
and
actually.
Israelis. You're doing a great job, and we couldn't be prouder of both of you.
I think, one thing that I've been thinking, like this whole idea of like, this is what, I think this is old. Well, it genuinely is better than like most coverage of it. You'd give it that. But, one thing I've been thinking about a lot is the way that like these kind of colonialist tropes that we see in Israel, and the way that because it's being it's a nation that's built around Jewish people. And because that obscures these classic bog standard white supremacist and colonialist tropes. Like one of these tropes is that like we're the Western, like the whole Western civilization thing. We're this outpost of civilization defending ourselves from the hordes of like brown rapist savages, you know? This is like this is everywhere you have colonialism. You see this exact language, completely identical. But because in this case it's language that's being used by a state that's built, it's made this connection in people's minds between that and Jews, we lose track of these totally bog standard white supremacist tropes. What Hamas did October 7th is every colonial dream. They wanted that trigger. Yeah, I mean, Doom Yeti, I mean, is one thing we've talked about a lot. Whatever violence that we saw on October 7th, and I think there's been a lot of conflicting stories that have come out since that time about who was committing that violence and how much the IDF was contributing to it. Not to say that, like, you know, there wasn't terrible things to happen or anything like that. Plenty of evidence has come out, though, that like the story is way more complicated than I think was initially described to us. But yeah, you see that same kind of thing like whenever colonialism exists as well. This is the cycle of colonialist violence. You see it in British India. You see it all throughout the British Empire in Afghanistan and South Africa. You see it in Vietnam. Like I've been thinking about the Vietnam parallel as well a lot. This whole thing of like Hamas. Everything is Hamas. Every civilian is Hamas. There's no civilians because everyone's Hamas. Hamas has tunnels under the hospital. They got tunnels under the school. They're mixing into the civilians. We don't know who's Hamas and who's not, so everyone is. This is the exact justification that was used to incinerate entire villages of Vietnamese people and children and killing 3 million people in Vietnam, civilians, including children. This is the word for word, the exact same language that was used to justify this. Or with Iraq. Yeah, it's the same. Again, you see it anywhere there's colonialism. You see that kind of reactionary, the violence of the people that are being colonized, which sometimes targets civilians, like we saw in the Indian Mutiny, like we saw throughout Vietnam. And there was a lot of horror stories about the VC as well and what the Viet Cong were doing, killing civilians and committing atrocities and stuff like that, a nonstop stream of that in our media as well. There's a lot of the same stuff in the 60s and 70s. You can be against the war, but you can't say like you support the Viet Cong. Like, get real. You've got to denounce the Viet Cong before you denounce the war, you know? Exactly the same. Like word for word, exactly the same. But Pete Buttigieg says Vietnam was a good and just war. Did he? Jesus Christ. What a sociopath. He thinks it's good and just when foreign women and kids are incinerated by napalm. That's the only thing that makes Pete Buttigieg feel anything. The Viet Cong was good. Yeah, I agree. But if we went back to this, if there was Twitch and Twitter in the late 60s and 70s, you'd be seeing all the same identical arguments. You know? All the same moralizing and hand-wringing. I mean, it was going on and then, but we don't have as much of a record of it, but it was still going on. But another big trope as well that I keep thinking about is this idea that like if we have one state, North Vietnam's unprovoked invasion, exactly. You must condemn before we talk about the war, before we talk about pulling out troops, we got to make sure we condemn the actions of the North Vietnamese in their invasion or the North Koreans in the Korean War. But this idea that like if there's just one state, and again, the idea of a two-state solution, like we've talked about a number of times, should be just off the table at this point. There's no two-state solution. The decades of settlements have made that impossible. For whatever possibility there was of ever having a two-state solution, that long ago ceased to be like a viable alternative. But this idea that like, well, if they have one state, they're gonna do to us what we did to them, and this is not just about Israel. We say this about the idea about giving land back to indigenous people in Canada or the United States. They're going to do to us what we did to them. Which is, again, it's bog standard word for word colonial mentality. You know? And that's the amazing and ridiculous thing about this whole conflict, which is that Jewish people have lived in that region for centuries, and they lived side by side. Jews and Arabs lived side by side for centuries there. It's when when the West tried to establish a Jewish-only ethno-state on this land where many people already lived, that's when this conflict started. Jewish people are welcome. I love you to those who stand for the innocent. I mean, that's for all the people like the Jewish people right now in the UK or America that's like, I feel so unsafe right now. I feel so unsafe. And Christians as well. Yeah, of course. This is the most absurd thing about making a Jewish ethno-state on this land that's so meaningful to everyone from every Abrahamic religion. It's just the idea that anyone thought that was ever a good idea or it wasn't going to lead to this exact problem is insane to me. And in fact, anti-Zionist Jews in the late 19th century were saying the exact same thing, articulating exactly what was going to happen. But you see how it's just the exact same justification, the exact same kind of colonialist mentality. Basically, during the last election, there was this weird stance Dems walked into because Trump made fun of soldiers and bragged about being a draft dodger. So Pete was like, Vietnam was good, actually. That was the amazing thing when he's like, I like my soldiers that don't get captured. He refused. That was one of the cooler things about Trump was he refused to play this like we must respect John McCain gang game, you know. And when Trump said that, and everyone was like, "This is disqualifying. You could never say that about John McCain." And it's like, turns out you can actually. And then Democrats, of course, had to bend over backwards to be like, "We love John McCain. How dare you? We love John McCain." It's like, good job. That's a really coherent position you've got there. The Dems are so stupid. Like when Warren released the DNA test. Lion Liz, what are you doing? Anyway, it's just like, it's this whole idea that like we can't ever now let them have their own democratic rights in the same state as us because they're going to do the same thing to us as we did to them. And you know what? If you're one of these like settlers, either in Canada or Australia or Israel, any like settler colony, if you're that much of a fucking racist and you have that colonialist mentality that you're that concerned about people treating you the same way that you think about and treat other people, then yeah, I think you should probably just leave. How about that? I think if you're that concerned about it, yeah, you should probably just go back to where you came from. But I think that's like the only possible solution at this point is to have a one single democratic state where everyone has the same rights. That's not this like Jewish ethno-state fake country that's totally propped up by Western capital and Western imperialism. Like that's not a sustainable solution. And as much as people talk about a two-state solution and going back to those old borders, it's just not going to happen. So we got to start dealing with the actual reality of what the situation is. Go back to your ancestral homeland of Philadelphia. Yeah. And then if we give land back to indigenous people here, you can go back to like Ireland or Scotland or England or wherever it is, Germany. Here's the irony. They're probably right now, after they treated them that way for the last 7 years, that kind of makes it real easy to want revenge once the tables turn. And that's for sure, it's like complicated, but that's also not a reason to not do something. That's not a reason to not do the right thing. Like that's what the argument people make, right? It's been so fucked up for so long that now if we do try to give people equal rights, it's going to be complicated. It's going to be this big problem. So we just have to continue the apartheid forever, you know? You can stay if you play ball, but I get the feeling they don't want it. Well, it depends on who. I think there's plenty of people in Israel that would be totally fine with that situation. But if you're that much of a colonial mentality person and you really are that racist and you're so concerned that people are going to treat you the way you've been treating others, then yeah, you should probably just go back to where you came from. The whole they might treat us as bad as we treated them is really not the own they think it is, which is funny too, because it's like we don't treat them badly. We're so benevolent. We're so benevolent and supportive. People say it about indigenous people here as well. What do you want? We didn't do like they deny that the genocide happened. They say like we've given you these great easy lives because of fucking tax breaks or whatever. But of course we can never talk about giving land back because then you're going to do genocide to us. Destroying olive groves means you don't belong on that land and never did. Yeah, and I was reading today about how those olive groves as well, they take generations to grow. It takes decades. The way to end it is offer reparations to all Palestinians who live abroad, a right to have a house and to get citizenship instantly, and the whole Israeli entity is replaced by one that's not religion-based. Exactly, yeah. The Zionist entity has to go. A single, secular, democratic state. Like, that's the only solution that's left on the table. You have perpetual violence and bloodshed and this nonstop cycle of worsening colonialist violence, or a single secular state where everyone can live. Those are the two options that are left now. The authoritarian assholes sowing versus reaping. What the fuck? Yeah, this whole idea that like, oh, Palestinians want bloodshed and they want to cleanse the land of everyone that's not Arab. Like, there's no actual like evidence of that. It doesn't mean that it's not complicated because now of decades of violence and oppression, but like, I think most people just don't want to live in a prison camp anymore, or don't want to be second class citizens, or being constant victims of violence and terrorism. Like, it's not even about Gaza right now, but the West, look what's happening on the West Bank right now, which has nothing to do with Hamas. Non-stop violence, like armed settler violence and the IDF beating and killing people and taking away their homes on the non-Hamas controlled West Bank right now, right this very moment. Sanders or Fetterman reversed their shitty take yet. No, neither of them can say the word ceasefire. It's actually embarrassing. That's just it. If the Zionist project was tenable, then they wouldn't govern themselves so poorly and treat other people even worse. Clearly, they don't deserve their own state at this point. They've had ample time and opportunity to have one and chose not to. And Simica's cooking right now. Got to take away the Vatican too. I'm listening. I'm listening. Canada had the worst take on it recently, calling for a humanitarian truce. That's what we want. We want a humanitarian truce, a little pause in the bombing, so then we can just resume the nonstop, everyday violence that was going on before, that we pretended to care about but never did anything about. That's our enlightened progressive stance. I must say it is interesting seeing like Joe Biden and others now start to backtrack a little bit. They're trying to distance themselves from it a little bit, which is not like, it's not going to be possible. Surely though, they're looking at the number and seeing some really ugly numbers that their support of this is mean. And now we're getting all these stories. Oh, behind the scenes, we're urging restraint. Behind the scenes, oh, we got them to turn the internet back on. Biden is working diligently behind the scenes, but like, no, sorry, that's not going to fly this time. That's not going to fly. You know, they're financing it and they're subsidizing it. They could have stopped it long ago. And just this whole position that people like John Fetterman have. Let's look at this Fetterman clip, actually.
I'm with the Congress team. If you'd like, I can talk to you.
No, I can talk to. I voted for him. I'm sorry, this is a democracy.
It absolutely is.
Yeah, but kind of, sort of. Why? 10,000
You can't talk to your
people
constituent?
have been killed. Half are children. The Pope's calling for a ceasefire. The UN has called for it. I'm just asking you. You're a good guy. I voted for you. I know you're a nice guy.
This is really reasonable.
This is important. You need to leave. Here, can I give you a phone?
Like, this is actually illegal to do. This is a crime. This guy doesn't work. This is part of Fetterman's team, his basketball short Imperial Guard.
He just assaulted him. He just assaulted him.
Like, that's one of his voters.
He just assaulted him. He was just talking to him. He's assaulted him.
Like, that guy was totally reasonable too. Followed by Beast of Burden. That's a nice touch as well. That guy was totally reasonable. He's not yelling in his face. He's not being angry or violent. He's literally saying, like, you're a good guy. I voted for you. You know? But just this position that, like, John Fetterman and certain other, like, progressive Democrats have tried to take, which is completely incoherent as well. Just this, like, well, you know, they have the right to go after Hamas. They have the right to go after Hamas, who did all these terrible things, and they just need to follow international law. And this, like, creating this fantasy version of what's been actually going on. Like, now people are surprised that Israel's going way overboard. They're like, whoa, we didn't mean this. We didn't know they were going to do this. But it's like, you did know. That's exactly why people were supporting Palestine on October 7th, as soon as this happened. The rallies for Palestine started because they knew full well that Israel was going to respond with barbaric violence. Anyone that knows anything about this conflict knows that. This whole idea of Israel's right to defend itself that people like John Fetterman uphold every single time, this ironclad right to defend themselves, what that means is bombing Gaza. What that means is murdering kids. That means collective punishment. We all know what that means. If you know anything about this conflict, you know exactly what that means. And they take the stance like, I'm so progressive. I just support the Israeli government doing these surgical strikes to go after Hamas, protecting civilian lives, and following international law. But it's like, that's not what's happening now. That has never happened. Biden behind the scenes is pressuring Netanyahu to ensure the IDF makes distinctions between Hamas and civilians. They have never done that, though. At what point do we stop pretending that this has ever been something that Israel has ever had any interest in, respecting international law? Israel's entire existence at that point is contrary to international law. These decades of settlements that have been going on since the late 60s are against international law. Why do people think that they can just say, like, well, I just expect them to follow international law? Why do you expect that, though? That's an insane thing to expect, when there's been decades of evidence that no one in the Israeli government has any interest in following through on that. No, they're not going to make distinctions about civilians and Hamas. No, they're not going to. They haven't been doing it for the last several decades. They're not going to start doing it now. And you don't get like progressive points for being like, of course I support the right to defend themselves and do these surgical strikes on Hamas military targets and follow international law. You don't get progressive points for that, for outlining some fantasy version of the conflict that has never existed. Defending themselves from hospitals and journalists. Yeah, the human shields. The Rhodesians, they have a right to defend themselves. That's right. Yeah. Like, and this is I think the shift that has happened now is that I think for a while you could be a progressive politician and have this kind of stance about Palestine and talk about international law and talk about wanting to respect civilians and use this kind of like progressive language while still supporting the occupation, but it's not working anymore. The like viciousness of it is just on full display for everyone. The racism of it, the violence that the occupation is completely built on. It's visible to everyone now. So now people like John Fetterman are so confused. Why aren't you listening to my progressive spin on this? Why aren't you listening to my progressive spin on like Israel has full right to just do whatever it wants at all times? Like people see through that now, I think. And yeah, you can't even listen to this totally reasonable guy asking him a basic question in a Buffalo Wild Wings or Applebee's or whatever it is. The absurdity of the propaganda and the trend of it getting more ridiculous over time really vindicates the red sales line on propaganda. It's not convincing, it's licensing. I mean, I tweeted about this earlier, but it's really because now there's the beheaded babies thing wasn't enough. Now there's a new baby horror story. A new horror story about Hamas committing atrocities on beautiful Israeli babies. Apparently, they put a baby in the oven. Now that's the new thing. Do we have evidence for that? No, we don't. The evidence about a lot of these atrocities are like we showed a bunch of friendly journalists in a private screening some of the violence, which is just too horrible for us to ever show and release to the public. Like if they had evidence of this, I don't have any doubt that Israel would have no issue releasing that to the public. Like if they had damning evidence that they could release to the public that would further justify what they're doing right now, I don't doubt that they would do that. The wings just showed up, so that guy had to go. But I really do think that like how it's just bizarre. It's bizarre how we're meant to listen to these horror stories for which there's no evidence about atrocities being committed against babies. And now there's another one going around. The baby in the oven thing. And meanwhile, this is meant to justify this nonstop stream that we all have access to of photos and videos of Palestinian kids being bombed, shot at, maimed, traumatized, orphaned. Like we have this nonstop stream of visual evidence that we can see with our eyes and listen to with our ears, as horrifying as it is. But what we're supposed to think about and listen to are these like horror stories about Hamas committing atrocities against babies with no actual evidence that it has any relation to reality. Yeah, and the whole projection thing. I mean, I read the story about these Zionist gangs in 48 making this. There's a testimony about attacking this bakery and horrifyingly putting this man's son in this oven and then putting the man in himself. It's absolutely horrendous. All those videos of babies being pulled out of rubble are AI generated. The story told by some random dude is true. Like it's bizarre to me. And talk about the colonial mentality. You see the monopoly on violence and who's innocent. Whose deaths do we care about? Whose deaths do we politicize? The nonstop bombing and mass murder of Palestinian and Arab kids is like totally okay. And in fact, these horror stories that we hear justify that violence. It actually makes it okay. Well, this is what I'm talking about, Doom Yeti. I mean, the idea that people would like discount that kind of violence when you can just look at pictures of Gaza, which looks like it's been hit by a nuclear bomb, and say like, no, I don't. I think they're lying. They're lying about the amount of people that have been killed. I mean, you don't even need to look at the videos of the destruction. Like there's nonstop stream of footage of children being pulled out of rubble, dead bodies, It's horrendous. But we're supposed to think that like these horror stories that we're told actually justify that. And of course, nothing, that's the perpetual double think mind fuck that goes on, where nothing that Hamas ever does is justified. But because of the horrible things Hamas does, just the most brutal violence against innocent people, including children, is in fact justified. Like, it's so nonsensical. This violation of our shared values necessitates this weird hierarchy atrocities. All babies are created equal and one side is killing more of them. Yeah, and that's just a verifiable fact. And again, it's that colonial mentality where you care about violence that happens to certain people and certain people have it coming. Certain people, they're just like these hordes of savage, uncivilized people. So being killed and maimed and brutalized is just in their nature, whereas we're enlightened and civilized and white. And somehow the violence against us is inexcusable. It's unjustifiable. I don't trust the Gaza numbers. Israel posts higher numbers. Yeah, and like Abby Martin has been pointing out. Yeah, they're lying about their numbers, and meanwhile, they're showing in their media, Israeli media, proudly displaying the tally as terrorists we eliminated. Like, they're proud of it. We're denying the numbers, the figures that are coming out of like Gaza because of Hamas. Meanwhile, the Israeli government is showing even higher numbers, and they're bragging about it, and they're proud of it. Yeah, there's that famous cartoon of a colonial beating a native civilization versus a native beating a colonial barbarism. I think this is the thing that I keep coming back to, Jones, which is just that it's just boilerplate, bog standard colonial mentality. And because it's being perpetrated by Jewish people, it becomes obscured somehow, or it becomes more difficult to talk about, or it becomes complicated or nuanced because this like trauma is invoked. The trauma of the Holocaust is used to like justify this. And it totally obfuscates just the very, very easy to understand like colonialist mentality that's driving everything. You know, like I was saying, the outpost of civilization, defending the West from these barbarian hordes. Like this is colonialism. It's just completely word for word, all the exact justification, the exact asymmetry in violence, who's allowed to wield it and who's not, whose deaths are worthy of condemnation and whose aren't. You know, it's the same mentality that's been going back for centuries. And that's why I really appreciate that Michael Brooks clip, even though I still see people trying to dunk on it. No, it is complicated. This is like leftist baby brain. It is complicated. It's not. Like Michael says in that clip, like Michael Brooks says now in that now famous clip, if there were 2 million Jews in Gaza who had no democratic rights, and there was an Arab country that controlled all the borders, was routinely dropping bombs and killing innocent people, no one would have any confusion about what was going on there. No one would have there would be no of this like, oh, it's complicated. We really need to like talk about the right to defend themselves of the fictional Arab nation that I'm describing. Like, no, that would never be happening. Everyone would understand instantly, this is abhorrent. This is wrong. This is grotesque. Every single person would immediately understand that, and then they would be correct. Palestinians die, Israelis are killed, Palestinians loot, Ukrainians scavenge. The news makes it very clear who matters and who doesn't. And listen, it's not even exclusive to Israel, right? We do it when we talk about any imperialist country. You did the same thing with like U.S. troops in Afghanistan and Iraq, right? You're invading a country. You're dropping bombs and murdering people, but when someone picks up a gun or a grenade or even a rock and throws it at you, you're now a terrorist. Now that's used to justify even more violence. You even see it domestically. It's not just internationally. You see the same kind of it's the way we describe police violence. It's the same thing. You know, you can militarily occupy neighborhoods, entire neighborhoods, with these militarized police units. You regularly beat and imprison and harass and murder people with total impunity. And then when when that violence goes back in the other direction, oh boy, we got to stop the whole world. The whole world comes to a stop, and we got to condemn the violence. Condemn the violence against police officers. And that gets, it's the same colonial mentality that just gets used to justify even more militarization and even more mass imprisonment and mass incarceration. Well, Doom Yeti, I think this is one thing that we're really seeing right now is like the world, like, at least this is one encouraging thing, as horrific as this moment is for people in Palestine. We're seeing a shift. This narrative is connecting less and less with people. We're seeing it's a global mass movement supporting Palestine right now, both inside our empire and outside it. Oh my God, just left Hutch, the streamer who's left-wing politics but not deranged. Well, thank you for coming back here where I am proudly deranged. Left-wing politics but not deranged. That's vote for Democrats and liberals but feel bad about it. That's what that amounts to. You go and vote for Democrats and then you go and complain about them for 4 years and then you go vote for them again. Deranged equals foundation in history and economic theory. That's right. When you have a basic understanding of like what our economic system is or what our culture is about, or like settler colonialism or whatever it is. That's deranged. You think I'm pretty ranged? Thank you, Sam. Thank you. I try to be. I try to be pretty ranged. Conspiracy brained is another. And oh boy, am I ever conspiracy brained. And as I was saying, folks, this is a really interesting quote I found as well from I. Rubanovich, a Russian Jewish socialist from 1886. And it's really interesting. As much as this whole project has taken place to like completely link Zionism and Judaism, you see like anti-Zionist Jews have been incredibly clear about exactly what was going to happen if this Zionist plan was followed through on for now, like long before Israel even existed, which also shows, by the way, the fact that people were talking about this in 1886, that the foundation of Israel actually has nothing to do with the Holocaust, which is another thing that we tell ourselves. You know, this plot was in place for decades prior to that, for these Zionist groups to establish a Jewish state in Palestine. And there was talk as well of doing it in Uganda or Madagascar or other places for a while. And this is just where they settled on. Really interesting quote. It says, "What is Palestine? It's a country which belongs to the Turkish Empire and is settled by Arabs. Mr. Lilienblum says that we have a historical right to Palestine. A historical right. And by what means will you defend that historical right? The Arabs have exactly the same historical right. Woe unto you if, under the protection of international bandits and by the manipulation of international intrigue and corrupt diplomacy, you force the peaceful Arabs to defend their rights. They will answer tears with blood and will bury your hereditary claims under the ashes of your homes." Like, that's what socialist, anti-Zionist Jewish people were saying about the idea of a Jewish ethno-state in Palestine, you know, over a century ago. Alaska was an option once too. As I keep saying, if the formation of Israel did have anything to do with the Holocaust, put it in Germany. Oops. I feel like I should use this angle more. Every time I see this angle, I'm like, it's kind of cool. I like to be able to read the chat better, though. Like, this is what I was talking about with the baby thing. John Pottert's. Like, this is so deranged. They baked a baby in an oven. They baked a baby in an oven. They baked a baby in an oven. Say ceasefire one more time, you fucking baby murdering loving ghouls. Like, I actually think the people that are baby, as John Pottert says, baby murdering loving ghouls, it's the people dropping bombs on Gaza right now and killing thousands of kids, including babies. Babies in NICU units, in hospitals in Gaza, and babies that are being born right now in this situation. I actually think those are the people that are the baby murdering loving ghouls. It's John Pottert's himself. Why is that shit even allowed to be posted? Well, funnily enough, the one thing that Elon has increased since taking over, which has been a net good for Twitter, has been the community notes. So it gets community noted. Israeli journalist Chaim Levinson has debunked the claim made about a baby killed with an oven and has provided important context about the motivation for manufacturing that claim. It's all thread about it here. Eli Beer, the president of the Hatzalah organization, spoke yesterday at a conference of the Jews in the Republican Party in Las Vegas held over the weekend. Like any good Jew who sees the rich, he thought about the money and told a story that did not exist and was not created about a baby in the oven. Maybe that's kind of a weird translation. I just want to make clear that I am reading the words of an Israeli journalist when I say that, and I'm not editorializing anything, just so that's totally clear. Yeah, this is the double think mind fuck that's going on PM Trio. These imaginary babies which totally justify the killing of actual babies. Yeah, here's where the story came from. As you see, it says, a baby was found in an oven baked to death by Hamas terrorists. Leading Israeli first responder Eli Beer recounted to an RJC gathering last night. So this was at a gathering of conservative Jewish people in the Republican Party, which should indicate enough to people that this is not something that we should be taking seriously. Do you think the U.S. would bomb Iran? I mean, I don't know. That would be catastrophically stupid. There is certainly a lot of appetite for that with people that are powerful people within the U.S. government and the military-industrial complex. So I would never say never. I mean, I remember there were stories a couple months back about the Biden administration wanting to pivot to directly confronting Iran before this even started. So there's definitely appetite for it. And there has been certain things going on, like the moving of these aircraft carriers closer to the region, bombing as that happened on Friday, bombing these like IRGC targets. So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? I want to watch this video, which compiled a lot of the reporting that's been done about October 7th and what actually happened. As we've been talking about on this show a lot over the last couple of days, it should be clear, at the very least, that there is more to this story than what was initially described as just this, which we should be skeptical. We should always have been skeptical of from moment one. I get that it's hard to be skeptical when the propaganda fire hose gets turned on and you're being totally inundated with it. But this story that we were told about October 7th and these roving gangs of Hamas fighters just committing indiscriminate atrocities against civilians, which was then used to justify all the violence that we've seen since then. A lot of evidence has since come to light that the story is a lot more complicated than that, and a lot of this violence was coming from the IDF and the Israeli side, bombing and shelling homes, getting in these big crossfires. We looked at the Hannibal Doctrine the other day. This whole doctrine of like not wanting to have allow hostages to be taken. Brian Berlatek released a new video where he goes over a Iran paper from 2009 about war with Iran. TLDR, they're basically going to provoke a response from Iran to justify a war. And that's the classic like cowardice of like U.S. imperialism, right? You see this time and time again. Oh, we didn't start it. We didn't start it. We simply poked and poked and poked and poked you for years and years and even decades. We poked and poked and poked until finally there's a response. And then we say, oh, I guess we have to have a war now. Ah, shucks. Ah, shucks. The one thing our country is good at doing, or it's not even good at doing it, but it's good at making money off of it. Yeah, Gulf of Tonkin, you talk about NATO and Ukraine, like there's a whole other, there's just endless examples of this exact strategy. Time and time and time again. Anyway, let's take a look at this this video, which is outlining now some of the reporting that's been done, including in Israel state media, in case anyone thinks this is like a Hamas thing. Like a lot of this is coming out of Israeli state media. The different stories about what actually happened on October 7th. The Thornton Affair, the Mexican War from 1846 to 48. You got the USS Maine. You know, it's pick up that gun. It's the same thing every fucking time. You all saw me at a gun. I don't want no trouble, mister. Pick up the gun. It's the same thing every time. This is also part of colonialist mentality. So let's take a look at this.
Have you seen this video?
Inside, we found 8 babies burned in this corner.
An Israeli soldier conducts an interview in front of a destroyed home of a kibbutz. He says Hamas fighters burned babies and then beheaded them, but this is all a lie.
October 7th sounds like the IDF just killed a bunch of civilians after officers and shit were taken hostage. I think that's a big part of it, Dummy Dorko. Again, whenever we talk about this, I don't want to deny that like nothing bad happened or that Israeli civilians weren't killed or targeted. My whole point whenever we talk about this though, is that the story is a lot more complex than this very simplistic narrative of roving hordes of Hamas fighters massacring and killing babies and raping women. That was the narrative that was promoted instantly as soon as this started on October 7th.
Of a kibbutz. He says Hamas fighters burned babies and then beheaded.
So we're going to sorry, I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to stop pausing it. We're going to sleepwalk into World War III. I think that's not I mean, I get what you're saying. Uno menos. But I don't think that's accurate, though, because I think we often have this justification for American imperialism. Oh, they sleptwalked into it. They bumbled into it. It's the bumbling empire trope, you know? We just kind of slipped and fell and ended up in this big war. But, like, that's not really how it's happening. I think they use that kind of justification sometimes, but it's a lot more calculating, I think, than describing it like that. Joe makes it feel more bumbled than usual, or Trump as well. It's bipartisan. But I think that obscures sometimes the like imperialist intentions behind all of these things. Oh, we stumbled into it, you know? Iran just laying a big giant banana peel for the carrier to slip on. Absolutely. Okay, let's watch this. I'm going to stop interrupting.
Beheaded them, but this is all a lie, and I'm going to prove it to you using Israeli media. Yes, that is right, Israeli media. But first, let's ask an important question. How did the concrete walls of this home behind the soldier turn into rubble? Fires burn wood and other flammable items. They do not collapse concrete structures like this.
Children in the same room, then someone come and kills them all. 15 girls and teenagers that put in the same room, 3 hand grenades, and it's over. This is a massacre.
Now, the Israelis want you to believe that Hamas fighters did this, but we know that they were only armed with machine guns and small grenade launchers. That doesn't cause this level of damage. So then how did they destroy concrete homes like this? The answer is they didn't. The Israelis did. What? That is shocking. But why? And how would the Israelis do that? Well, Israeli media has all the answers. They interviewed the IDF soldiers who responded to the Hamas attack, and they learned something shocking. The IDF was struggling to handle the Hamas fighters. Tuval Eskapa, or however you pronounce his name, a member of the security team for Kibbutz Be'eri, set up a hotline to coordinate between kibbutz residents and the Israeli army. He told the Israeli newspaper Haaretz that as desperation began to set in, the commanders in the field made difficult decisions, including shelling houses on their occupants in order to eliminate the terrorists along with the hostages. These reports indicate that orders came down from the military's high command to attack homes and other areas inside Israel, even at the cost of many Israeli lives. According to Haaretz, the army was only able to restore control over Be'eri after admittedly shelling the homes of Israelis who had been taken captive. The price was terrible. At least 112 residents were killed, according to the paper. Others were kidnapped. Now, much of the shelling in Be'eri was carried out by Israeli tank crews. As a reporter for the Israeli Foreign Ministry-sponsored outlet I-24 noted during a visit to Be'eri.
Small and quaint homes bombarded or destroyed. Children's toys lying around, well-maintained lawns of grass ripped up by the tracks of an armored vehicle. Perhaps a tank. Perhaps a tank. Perhaps a tank.
In other words, the IDF, in an act of desperation, decided to just kill everyone, including hostages.
Animal
this
doctrine,
is their
right.
words, not mine. In fact, Yasmin Porat, an attendee of the Nova Music Festival, who fled into the kibbutz, told Israeli radio that when Israeli special forces arrived during a hostage standoff, they, quote, eliminated everyone, including the hostages, because there was very, very heavy crossfire.
The Israeli state media, this is not Hamas saying this.
כי היה שם חילופי ירי מאוד מאוד קשים.
To be totally clear.
מטורפים, אפילו שני פקזים של טנק שירו לתוך הבית, שזה בית קיבוצי קטן, זה לא איזה, רואים את זה בחדשות.
She goes on to describe how Hamas militants tied her partner's hands behind his back. She saw her partner lying on the ground, still alive. She went on to say that Israeli security forces killed him and other hostages as they opened fire on the remaining militants inside, including with tank shells.
ובן הזוג שלך שהיה איתך? נהרג. הוא גם נהרג. כן, כולם נהרגו שם.
This is why you see large bits of shrapnel and bullet holes in the walls of
it takes a lot of bravery to speak to the media and tell this story while this is going on.
It's why you find severely burnt bodies of Israeli hostages. But there's more. The IDF also used Apache attack helicopters. In an interview with Israeli media outlet Mako, an Apache pilot admitted that many of the cars he fired rockets at contained hostages. But wait, there's even more. Israeli security forces also opened fire on fleeing Israelis whom they mistook for Hamas gunmen. A resident of Ashkelon named Danielle Rachel described nearly being killed after escaping from the Nova Music Festival when it was attacked by militants. As we reached the roundabout at a kibbutz, we saw Israeli security forces, she recalled. We held our heads down because we automatically knew they'd be suspicious of us in a small beat-up car from the same direction the terrorists were coming. Our forces began shooting at us. Lastly, let's discuss how an IDF commander ordered an airstrike on his own position. The very first target the Palestinian fighters attacked was the TRRS checkpoint. The attack was so fierce that the IDF commander, Avi Rosenfeld, in an act of desperation, he called for an airstrike on his own position. The IDF bombed their own base in order to kill the Palestinian militants. So what should we take from
Hannibal
all this?
Doctrine.
Do we absolve Hamas of their actions on October 7th?
A checkpoint to an
Of course
actual
not.
military
None of
target.
this would
Absolutely.
have happened had they not attacked. Now, whether or not they have the right to resist occupation and apartheid with the use of force is a topic for another video. But the point of this video is to highlight how the IDF's poor response and performance led to the deaths of their own people. As several Israeli hostages have already made clear, the Palestinian militants were kind to them despite the aggression. And as the Nova survivor Yasmin Porat put it, she believes the militants didn't want to kill them. She believes their goal was to take them back to Gaza as hostages. The entire point of the attack seems to be the capturing of Israelis as hostages in order to trade them for thousands of Palestinian political prisoners. And in the chaos that ensued, many people lost their lives. Now, some people say, who cares how it went down? People died. Babies died. Is that not awful? Well, of course it is. But the reason we have to cut through Israeli propaganda is because it's being used to justify acts of genocide in Gaza. Israelis believe deep down to their core that their babies were beheaded,
Pictures and
that their
videos.
women were raped and tortured before being killed. And this simply isn't true. And even with Israeli media reporting the facts, they may never change their minds. But the rest of the world needs to know the truth, because it is the world that has given Israel the green light to commit acts of atrocity in Gaza.
the
And there's
world, but
growing
the
concern of an
rules-based order.
escalation that may erupt into
The
a
Fourth
greater
Reich.
regional conflict. So share this video and help spread the facts. The world deserves to know the truth. And without you, that'll never happen. RIP to all those who lost their lives, especially the thousands of innocent children in Gaza, incurring the wrath of a misled population. Free Palestine.
Here's a link to the video if you want to show that. And again, if anyone's watching this and getting mad, all this information is coming from Israeli media. This is not Hamas. Hamas is lying. Like, it's literally coming from survivors of these attacks speaking to Israeli media. And again, it's never been my position, and I hope this is clear to everybody. It's never been my position that like nothing bad happened, or that Hamas or whoever else weren't responsible for civilians being killed. You know, we don't know totally what happened. There's been a lot of lies and a lot of spin, and it makes me a little suspect about some of the info that we've been told. I still don't deny that. But also, I think you have to recognize that not only is the IDF and the Israeli government responsible for a lot of this violence, when Hamas commits violence against innocents as well, guess who's responsible for that? Not Hamas, Israel. When people escape from a concentration camp and commit acts of violence, I blame the people that put them in the concentration camp. That's who I condemn. That's who I denounce. That's why I've never found it very useful to do this whole like self-righteous condemnation of Hamas or whoever else. You know, condemn the people that are causing the problem. Condemn the people that are causing the crisis. The Israeli government, you know, perpetrating this apartheid, this settler colonialism on people. Yeah, when you treat people like this, the way that they've treated Palestinians for 70 years, lo and behold, that's going to create moments like this where people die. That's on you as the colonizer. Many American Jews standing with Palestinians. And I mean, I saw there was tweets about like this massive protest in London, and these like conservatives, some of them are conservative Jewish people, some of them are not Jewish at all. But of course, there's a lot of like anti-Semitism warriors in the UK that have nothing to do with being Jewish at all. And they look at these, they show these images of hundreds of thousands of people at this big rally in London. They're like, how Jews are not safe here. How are Jews supposed to feel safe? Just completely ignoring the fact that there's thousands of Jewish people involved in this movement. You know, you're seeing Jews in any pro-Palestine march that we're seeing around the world right now, which is a worldwide movement, mass movement. Jews are intimately involved in that, every single one. You saw some really inspiring Jewish activists in New York, in the trains, occupying the train station. You know, in New York City, like there's been like Jewish people are intimately involved in this struggle and always have been. Yeah, the anti-Zionist. No, the anti-Zionist diaspora has always been their worst enemy. Exactly, and that's why they don't like. That's why you have this thing where like, oh, they don't count. Those people don't count as being Jewish. Meghan McCain is the real Jewish person, and like someone like Ellie Valley doesn't count as being Jewish. Ellie Valley is coming on the Insurgents podcast tonight, by the way. And the anti-Zionists as well, exactly. All those anti-Zionist antis out there. This seems proportionate. It's Amy Schumer doing more just like basically boilerplate reactionary anti-Semitism with the name switched around. On the subject that we're talking about right now, new footage released today of some of these hostages. And I think it's pretty interesting what they have to say. You see, not only these hostages, but the families of these hostages are pleading with Netanyahu right now to not do exactly what he's doing. And that's how much they care about these hostages, that the families of these hostages, they're just telling them to go fuck themselves. And the actual hostages themselves.
ביבי נתניהו שלום, אנחנו נמצאים בשבי החמאס 23 ימים. אתמול הייתה מסיבת עיתונאים עם משפחות החטופים. אנחנו יודעים שהייתה אמורה להיות הפסקת אש, היית אמור לשחרר את כולנו, התחייבת לשחרר את כולנו, ובמקום זה אנחנו נושאים במחדל הפוליטי, ביטחוני, צבאי, מדיני שלך, בגלל הפאשה הזאת שעשית ב7 לאוקטובר, בגלל שלא היה צבא שם, אף אחד לא הגיע, אף אחד לא שמר עלינו, ואנחנו אזרחים תמימים, אזרחים שמשלמים מיסים למדינת ישראל, נמצאים בשבי, בתנאים לא תנאים. אתה הורג אותנו, אתה תהרוג, אתה רוצה להרוג את כולנו, אתה רוצה עם צה"ל להרוג את כולנו, לא מספיק טבחת בכולם, לא מספיק אזרחים ישראלים נהרגו, שחרר אותנו עכשיו, שחרר את האזרחים שלהם, שחרר את האסירים שלהם, שחרר אותנו, שחרר את כולנו.
You can share that in the chat from Doom Yeti.
תן לנו לחזור למשפחות שלנו עכשיו! 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 ביבי
Link, yeah. Can't wait till they have a fire hostage parody on Israeli SNL, for sure. They've been... I mean, we talked before, about like how Israel tries to...
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob
like
to
Jewish
talk
culture,
you through all this.
Which has always come from the diaspora. And there's no greater example of that than like what passes for comedy on Israeli TV. It's just pure dog shit. When some of the all-time great legends of comedy are like Jewish screenwriters and Jewish comedians. And when you actually have Israel trying to put together a comedy show, it's it's just absolute shit. That's not where Jewish culture has nothing to do with Israel. It comes from the diaspora. All the immense contributions that Jewish people have made in art and writing and entertainment and politics, political science, for generations, food, culinary things, cooking, culture, like I was saying, a huge part of like the culture of many major cities, like in Montreal, for example. Completely inseparable from like Jewish culture. Is a big building block of what makes Montreal an interesting city. It all comes from the diaspora. It doesn't come from Israel.
دم. قال اخطفها، قال وقام قوسها في راسها. انا اشوف هيك في البتيجين طاخ سماهن. انا كمان افهم، انا بفهم عربي. كنت سماهن كانوا يضربوه. مين يجي قبالين يقتلوه. حتى انا كمان شفت كمان قتل واحد عربي عم بيقول لي انا عربي. بقول له اقرا القران، بقول له قرا له القران. قال له بعرفش اي ايه تقرا. قرا له الايه اللي بده اياها. قال له انت عشانك عم تشتغل في اسرائيل طرزوا. اول ما بلشوا الزخ الضرب كان في رخفان، مش رخفان، هذا الباراشوت، ومرق حوالينا، مرق من فوق، والاغلب عم بيقول له هيك طلع مخبل. الا هو اللي كيبان وتم على كيبون المسيبه. قبل ما يخلصوا اول فشكي عطفوا كل المسيبه، وكل ما تروح الناس تروح على شقه يبلشوا طخ عليهم. قمنا وركضنا بيجي حوالي 800 متر في نص الوعر بين الشجر، نركض. انا اركض، يركضوا معي ناس كانوا معي خارج من الثابت اللي كانوا معنا، وبعد حوالي 30 بني ادم كنا نركض كيف الوعر، كنا نركض نشوف هني يوقع واحد ورا الثاني. عم بتصلم اشتراه، يعني عم بتصلم بقول لي زعيك يعني 40 50 ولد هون بلي شو ما جناب ولا شيء خسرونين تحت ياري بو تشلخوها سلالي بو تشلخوها هليكوبتر بلو ايديها تعسو ماشو ولا تسويك بتسعكوت اللون الاخر اللي ملاقيه عليه خد تستدير فتستتر هي بشيكت زي ما تشوف هالشيء اللي مشيتها. بنتايم انا بطلع في السماء كان في هليكوبتر، كانوا شايفيننا كنا غايب، كانوا شايفين كل الشيء تحت المتكاف. وصلت على الصيرة ركض هيك بين الشجر بنص الوعرة. وصلت على السيارة مفتوحة كلها، كل الابواب مفتوحة، كل اشي برا كله مكسر، الكوبا الشتيكين. بما كبير عم بطلع هيك في مرخاكش 50 متر 40 ل 50 متر مشو كذا، حوالي 10 مخبلين عم بيعملوا لينش في واحد. في واحد في ولد في له 3 ايد. اركض وقفنا هيك في زاوية جورة، وقفنا فيها عبين ما يخف شوي الضرب. عم بطلع هيك لفوق ولا شفت تانك، عم بقول لي هذا تانك اسرائيلي هات نطلع عليه. ضلينا رايحين لغاد، جرب واحد يفوت على التانك يمشيه، ما كان ماكل كنوتيلي التانك، وقام اكل مره واحده RPG. فتنا فيها اللي ساعتها. طب شو بدنا نعمل؟ والزخ علينا من اليمين ومن الشمال ومن قدام من ورا، ما ماشي هيك. واحنا في هذا الوقت واقفين والناس عم توقع، والناس عم تاكل هوايه وعم تموت. عم بطلع تحت التانك، نزلنا تحت التانك. كان فيش كيلو محل نفوت، صرنا نبحث في الرمل، نبحث عشان نفوت تحت التانك. بحثنا ابو 40 50 سم، صرنا نفوت نفس. وقام اجى طنبر قبالنا بدي يخصم الضرب، طنبر ابيض كبير. بديوك بس وقف نحده، قام اكل RPG هو اياها، هو الطنبر وصاحبه. تلاقي 3 4 شباب كلهم طاروا 3 4 طوره. بس من الرصاصين تبعت RPG واحد ياكل رصيص في نص ظهره، فتح لها كل ظهره. وتبع RPG كمان بتسوع مفتوح كل جنبه هون. فوتناه تحت الدبابي وعم بنزف، عم بيطلع دم كثير، مش عارفين شو نعمل له. كنا غاد 3 4 ساعات. الساعة 10 بيجيني ولد ابن 20 سنة بقول لي افشع لي التكشير لإيمة. قلت له بيت احكي اخذ التكشير. اعطيته صحة على امه وقال لها شكر له انه هو في محل بتوخ انه ما خياليم وهي عشان يرجعوا قبل بتخلص احنا كنا تحت ياري. والبني ادم هذا عدينا دار ولو داسي خاخر ونشلوا مع اهله. وفي جيت
Okay, I don't know how much longer this is, and it's a really bad format to be looking at stuff, but because of Instagram, but it is really interesting, this idea that if there was the violence that was going on, that it was being completely like allowed to happen. Helicopters there, not doing anything. A lot of rumors and a lot of stories about crossfire. like I said, there's a lot of people in Israel that are completely outraged with their government right now, and should be. There's this as well. This is good that Bernie's stance on this is totally inseparable from Hillary Clinton's. That's good.
People who are calling for a ceasefire now do not understand Hamas. That is not possible. It would be such a gift to Hamas because they would spend whatever time there was a ceasefire in effect rebuilding their armaments, creating stronger positions to be able to fend off an eventual assault by the Israelis. So we're in a very different world. I don't think it had to be the world we're in, but that's where we are, and we've got to figure our way forward through it.
So we got to keep bombing kids. There's just nothing we can do. If anyone's out there saying like, hey, we should stop bombing kids, we should stop dropping bombs on this 2 million person prison camp, anyone says that, well, we can't do it. You just don't understand Hamas. You don't understand Hamas like I do, and because I understand Hamas, I know that we must continue this relentless bombing campaign of this captive population of 2 million people. That's the only thing. It's the only thing we can do. Anything else beyond that just helps Hamas. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and say, maybe this is controversial on here. I'm going to go ahead and say that if not dropping bombs on kids in Gaza helps Hamas, well, you know what? I think we should help Hamas. I'm sorry to say. I'm sorry to scare people. But I actually don't think murdering more kids is gonna really help anything. I mean, ironically, the ultimate irony of that is continuing this barbarity does help Hamas. I was seeing numbers of like actual Hamas fighters. A huge portion of Hamas fighters are orphans that have grown up in Gaza and have been treated like fucking animals by the Israeli government for generations. No shit they want to join Hamas and go and fight Israelis after that. It actually does help Hamas by continuing to indiscriminately bomb residential neighborhoods. That's actually the thing that helps Hamas the most. This lady would have gotten us into so much foreign conflict as a president. I really, on a foreign policy level, how would she have been different from Trump? Maybe she wouldn't have walked back the Iran deal, but maybe she would have, and her supporters would have like justified it. The bombings are the most effective recruitment campaign. I mean, there's no it's just this is how the cycle of violence works. You go kill someone's entire family for no reason. Guess what? They're going to spend their whole life hating you and wanting to kill you in return, as any human being would. As any human being that was in that situation would. Like, joining one of these groups is actually a normal reaction to that. I got this too for historical context. You know, we talk a lot about the projection and like these accusations, how they're always admissions. There's this little video here about Birth of a Nation. Let Israelis tell you in their own words how they stole other people's land, how they raped young girls, how they tortured and massacred innocent civilians.
מלחמת השחרור ידענו דבר אחד פשוט, או אני או הם. מדינה לוקחים עם חרב.
Should have ramped drone strikes for sure, or similar to Trump, would have just stopped reporting about civilian casualties in drone strikes, or like just toned down increased the secrecy of it so people didn't get mad about it anymore. But yeah, it ramped them up as well. That's similar to how Trump did. On the border, identical. It would have been very similar to Trump, if not identical. I mean, Biden's border policy is identical to Trump, so. She would have been over-aggressive to fight off any women or weak critiques, for sure, yeah. All these mean guys are talking about how I'm on my period all the time. I'm going to show them by overthrowing Libya. That'll show them. She would have been a one-term president, just cannot keep her opinions to herself. Well, ironically, I think she would have been taken down by the whole Epstein thing. If she was president when Epstein was arrested and the whole Epstein thing happened, how would have that gone for the old Clinton crime family? A little any interesting photos that would have been getting shared around for President Clinton around that time? I think so. Ghislaine Maxwell at her daughter's wedding and stuff. Bill hanging out on the Epstein Express. Yeah, Earth 2 is just crushing it these days.
שלי אמר לי, המדינה מתשווה. ודאי, הרגנו בהם.
הרגנו
בהם. בלי נקיפת מצפון.
הרגת, אז עשית דבר טוב. הייתי מוכן להרוג.
לא דיברתי עם אף אחד על זה.
אשתך נגיד שחיית איתה הרבה מאוד שנים, אני מניח. לא דיברת?
אף פעם לא סיפרתי לה. מה, אני אספר לה שאני הייתי רוצח?
Yeah, hilarious.
של כל מיני דברים, של נקמה ואכזריות, אנשים שבאו היו כבר אנשים שבאו ממחנות ההפרדה. שם, שאנשים היו בכזה טרנס, שלפי כמה וכמה עדויות, נכנסו שם מחמת זעם בכל מי שראו.
צד אחר, את האקדח, טרח, הרג את כולם.
הייתי אני ככה, בגדים של שינה, ויאללה, רפו אותם כמו פרות, חניהם.
בזמן קרב, אם מישהו הרים ידיים, משהו כזה, לא לקחתי שבויים.
כמה אתה חושב אנשים הרגת ככה?
לא ספרתי.
This guy's just laughing it up.
לא יכול לדעת בחיי.
This guy's hilarious.
חתיכה צעירה, נכנס לבית אחד, הכין חדר מיטות, עם מיטל, ברטל זיין אותה.
הילדה חזרה, זה סמרטוטיה.
אחד אנס שם איזה ילדה בת 16, משהו כזה. אתה מבין?
Can these guys stop fucking laughing when they're talking about this
היה לנו
absolute
בחור
horror?
אחד, הוא נפטר, הוא היה פרא אדם, הוא לקח פשוט מאוד, ורצח אותם בתוך המכלאות. חוטי ברזל כאלה, עגולים כאלה, אספו כל הגברים. הם יושבים שם כולם על הרצפה, ובא מישהו ולוקח תת מקלע
These are all techniques as well, terror techniques
מחליף
that were
מחסנית.
attributed to Nazis
מה אתה
also.
חושב, זה חבר'ה שלקחו את הלוויורים,
If the idea that like
והלכו אחרי
comparing
חבר'ה
Israel to Nazi Germany is some kind of like
היה
far-fetched
משהו
thing or something
זוועתי,
that just
וזה אסור
began recently.
לספר, אני לא אדבר על זה.
Goes all the way
מלחמה
back
זה
to the
מלחמה.
foundation of the nation.
לא כל אחד יכול לדעת מה זה מלחמה. ואני אומר, מי שלא היה שם, לא יכול לשפוט אף אחד אחר.
Yeah, I can judge. I can judge.
מלחמת השחרור.
Fucked up. Fucking disturbing. Yeah, maybe don't emulate the Nazis if you don't like the comparison. I mean, that's the easiest way to go about it. Yeah, if you don't want to be compared to Nazis, don't act like a fucking Nazi. Not doing Nazi shit is really easy. I do it every day. Me too. Me too. It's really, really easy. It's like they think the only component to the Nazis have been anti-Semitism, and I guess that like that ties up kind of a lot of what I've been talking about today. The way that like the fact that Israel is this Jewish ethno-state, it obscures what should be really clear to everyone, and the way that it's all the violence of Israel is justified by this like the trauma of the Holocaust, and the way that like it's only difficult for us to talk about, or uncomfortable to talk about, or difficult to make these comparisons because it's a Jewish ethno-state. When it's just basic white supremacy, it's just basic colonialism, that basic colonialist mentality, which is fundamentally white supremacist. All these totally standard word for word colonialist kind of tropes, you know, the outpost of civilization defending the West against the roving brown hordes, like the Camp of the Saints stuff. You know, if we give them land back, then like they're going to do to them what we did to us. It's all just basic white supremacy. It's basic settler colonialist mentality. But this is obscured because it's a Jewish ethno-state, and it's obscured by this like this using this kind of shield of the Holocaust and the trauma of the Holocaust. It's blatantly obvious why the people you're constantly attacking and stealing from hate you. Yeah, it has nothing to do with being Jewish. It has nothing whatsoever to do, as much as they try and frame that as being something like they're trying to kill Jews. They're motivated by hating Jews. No, they hate the people that stole their land and have been keeping them in a concentration camp for decades. That's who they hate. Many ideologues of the French right are Jews. A lot of like really conservative Jewish people in the UK as well. And that's exactly why we can't get bogged down in this trap of talking about like, I stand with X ethnic group. As talk about like Jewish people, like there's some like amorphous group that all have the exact same beliefs and the exact same history. You can totally ignore the Jews that have proudly and very bravely stood up against this now for like even before Israel existed. The long history of Jewish people and their contributions to like socialism and Marxism and the Soviet Union. But you have to listen to the Jews. The Jews are scared. The Jews are tired. Well, which ones though? You know, these reactionary, conservative, right-wing people that love Israel and think doing genocide to Palestinians is good, yeah, they feel a certain way, but would you believe that many people do not feel that way? That many Jews do not feel that way? I didn't see the Navarra clip, no. Like accusing indigenous people in Canada of being anti-Christian or some bullshit. Yeah, exactly. It's just absurd. It's just absolutely absurd. I've got to go in about 30 minutes, folks. There was a lot of chit chat today, so less time to talk about the serious business for the day. I guess some of it was kind of serious. Did we look at the Mayim Bialik tweet? No, it's like I've seen enough of that shit today. Amy Schumer, Mayim Bialik, the Columbia professor, all these these Jewish people in the West that are wealthy and successful and are more safe than like 99% of people around the world. And it's another ultimate irony of that is that like Israel's actions and the way the efforts that have gone into tying the actions of Israeli government with Jewish people empowers actual anti-Semites. Like there's actual anti-Semites right now that are thriving at the moment because they're making this case to people that Israel equals Judaism, and you're looking at the violence and the depravity of Israel, and they're making that link with people. It's actually helping, like it's not only helping Hamas, it's helping anti-Semites around the world make their case to people. The whole existence of Israel actually makes this more of an issue instead of less. Jim Gaffigan, is that the comedian Jim Gaffigan? I'm sure he's really, he and his friends are really struggling right now. And Mayim Bialik and Amy Schumer. I mean, it has been like I think a big moment for a lot of people that support Zionism are going out and seeing these protests and being like, the world is really like turning against this. You know? But like maybe my advice for people that like feel unsafe because they see pro-Palestine protests happening in London or Toronto or Montreal or New York City or wherever it is, my advice would be to go to one of these protests where you'll be welcomed. You'll be welcomed and embraced. And you'll also be on the right side of history. If you really feel that threatened by seeing these protests, just go to one of them. Maybe start trying to ask yourself if maybe you're the person that's been misled. You're the person that's been propagandized too. Go to one of these protests. And maybe you'll feel more comfortable and more safe and you'll understand what these protests are actually about. Yeah, that airport riot in Russia looks like it was legitimately motivated by anti-Semitism. I saw that. Yeah, and that's like, that is troubling. Like anyone should stand against anti-Semitism. I don't think Amy Schumer is someone that's really had to go through a lot of hardship because of her like religion or her identity. But like I said, I think it's actually increasing actual instances. I don't think writing "Free Palestine" on a bridge or whatever is an anti-Semitic act like the ADL and other organizations are claiming. But it's genuinely an issue. And frankly, I think it leads people down this reactionary path as well, where they start saying like, well, and there's no anti-Semitism in our society. And there is. Like, we do still live in an anti-Semitic society. It's Islamophobic as well. It's very racist. Maybe it's not the only form of oppression or racism that people experience, but far from it. But like it really does exist. And it's a genuine issue. But then when you claim that people protesting with Palestine or opposing the Israeli government is anti-Semitism, you dilute all that very real issue. Yeah, the anti-Semitism is coming from white supremacists, not Muslims and Palestine supporters. And the ultimate irony of that is that many of these white supremacists love Israel, because they want the Jews in their community to go move there, to get the fuck out of their own community and go live there. It's about land. It's about land and power. Yeah.
When you wash your
Sorry, I still have not. I don't know if I have 10 minutes to watch this video.
Sometimes, though, it tips into the surreal. The debate you're about to see is between James Schneider, he's a former advisor to Jeremy Corbyn, who is, it happens, Jewish, and a man called David Menzer, who is the former director of Labour Friends of Israel.
76% of people in this country want to see a ceasefire now. And that's because that's the common sense position. Because most people know that you don't respond to the unjustifiable killing of one group of children by killing a whole load more children. It doesn't make any sense. So what we should be doing, what we need from our politicians, which we don't have because they're in lockstep in support of the Israeli bombing campaign at the moment, is to call for a ceasefire. Because Britain not only provides diplomatic support for Israel, but we also help arm Israel. So we are complicit in the crimes which are taking place. And therefore, we have an outsized role in the ability to try to bring about peace.
The tricky position right here is sitting in your studio, and his name is James. James is, of course, a pound shop academic who underwrote, who sustained, who was the right-hand man of Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn, who certainly failed in his role as being leader of the Labour Party.
Sorry.
You know, giving the Labour Party its worst possible election result since the 1930s. But of course, he also pushed me and my family out of the Labour Party, where I was a member for the last 20 years or so, and he pushed me and my family over to live in Israel. That's what anti-Semitism does in the UK.
Jeremy Corbyn personally put this guy on the plane.
James, of course, is not the most trustworthy of people, because he was.
This guy was so scared of Jeremy Corbyn because he viewed Palestinians as human beings that he had to leave his country to go live in Israel. He was so scared of Jeremy Corbyn's completely disgusting opinion that Palestinian people are human beings who deserve to have rights. That was what was so scary for this guy. He felt so unsafe. Jeremy bulldozed his house and drove his family into the sea. Very unfortunate stuff. Very unfortunate.
Before being vaguely associated with the Labour Party, leading Momentum. But of course, before that, he was president of the Lib Dem Society. And of course, he's been writing for the Conservative Home newspaper. So James is a tin pot student politician that really should stay in the student union. This is about big boy politics.
Okay, well,
this is about
big boy politics, where we drop bombs on kids and then we think that it's good.
We learned a lot about James's CV as well here. Didn't know about the Conservative Home bit. But
well, it's not true.
The pound shop academic stuff. I mean, you're not really.
He's still talking.
The man
Who
to
is
be
this
talking
fucking
about
guy?
this is David's point.
Well, I think he's still going. I mean, most of what he said is factually inaccurate, but I'm not really going to. This isn't about me.
No, it's a serious topic, so in a way we shouldn't laugh. But that line, "I think he's still going," did get me. I have to say, and to kill response, James Schneider.
I mean, I think that pretty much that gives the. I'm sure the guy goes even crazier throughout this video, but. Some say he's still going to this day. Yeah, they love this acting like with treating people with basic human decency are just naive. This is big boy hours. When you try to say that people have rights, big boys and serious people like me know that we have to drop bombs on kids indiscriminately for weeks at a time and keep 2 million people in a concentration camp. And if you're a big boy, and if you're against that, if you say that we shouldn't do that, you're an anti-Semite. I mean, that's what a ridiculous fucking argument. And that's like I've been saying, that's all the Corbyn hysteria was all about. That's all it ever was. A lot of people got pulled into it. A lot of people, contributed to it. That's all it was ever about. Was about seeing Palestinians as human beings and wanting like the idea that someone could be in a position of power like that in front of a major party in Europe who did not support Israel. That's what all the hysteria was about. That's why that guy was so scared to leave. He was so scared. He was so scared of this old jam grandpa that he had to leave the country. That's all it ever was. That's all the hysteria ever was. It was all a smear. It was all a bad faith smear. And we don't have to take that seriously anymore. And I think less and less people are taking it seriously, which is good. There are conspiracy theorists on Twitter saying that Justin Trudeau assassinated Matthew Perry. Because Perry beat him up. Trudeau's been playing the long game for decades now. Scared of mostly Jewish Labor Party members. Again, the Jewish people in the Labor Party that were purged and disrespected and treated like shit during that time were Corbyn supporters. You can look at that Al Jazeera documentary all about the whole scam. And you see the primary people that got persecuted were Jewish socialists who supported Corbyn. Folks, I got to get going pretty soon. It was a long chit chat today. I will be back tomorrow with the season finale. The TRRS season 3 finale is tomorrow. Yeah, Starmer did all the Stalinist purges they were pretending Corbyn was doing, and Corbyn should have done more Stalinist purges. He should have done Stalinist purges day one, as soon as he took over. Corbyn's too nice, though. He thought the people that were working within the party on his side, who were actually backstabbing him the entire time, were trustworthy. He should have purged them. Halloween season finale special. That's what it comes down to. I got to make a little clip show video tonight. Okay, just one sec. So, folks, as you know, the only way that I'm able to do this show each and every day is if I try to make the little number at the bottom of the screen go up. The only way that I'm able to continue doing this show each day is through the very, very generous support.
You can count on me and have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Like Comrade Bushy, thank you for the 2 gifted subs. So I'm a mere now 18, I think. Wait, no. 23. I'm a mere 23 subs away from the goal. I'm not muted. I see the little lines going. You can't trick me anymore. You can't trick me with that. So I'm a mere 23 subs away from hitting the sub goal. So if you can, folks, please subscribe to TRRS. Again, if you enjoy this commentary,
you can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk.
If you enjoy being part of this community, please subscribe and support the show. I must try to meet the sub goal every single day. Thank you.
You've just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
Thank you, Kijiji Genie, for the gifted sub. And thank you, Max L49.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old
for the 5
Rob
gifted
to
subs.
talk you
Very
through all
kind of
this.
you, Max. Thank you, Max.
You've just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
Thank you, Diego, as well, for the gifted sub and for all the support that you've shown me and the community over the years. Diego, I love you. Thank you. And thank you, Uno Manos. Very first 5 gifted subs in the channel, Uno Manos. Thank you for that. That's very kind of you. That's very, very kind of you. And you instantly rocketed right up to that elite level of the Friendship Triangle system. Seeing a man in a balaclava do a heartfelt Twitch subscriber pitch is making me disassociate. I'm trying something a little different here, okay? I'm trying something a little bit different.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
TRRS Guns, TRRS Momo, TRRS Shocked, TRRS Sankara.
Thank you, Fennec, as well, for 5 months of Tier 1. Fennec Bard. Very much appreciated. And we're a mere 10 subs away now. Whenever I'm audio,
you can count on
I'm
me.
thinking,
You're going to have good old Rob to
must only
talk
be a
you
couple
through all
subs
this.
away. Then you surprised me with 23 away. The merely X number away thing has been working pretty well lately, though. So, Jones, brand new community member. Thanks for the Tier 1 sub, Jones77. Very, very kind of you for that. Thank you. Now a mere 9 subs away. And we are on level 4 of this hype train as well. The clash between the red and black and white plaid is fucking with my sense of aesthetic. I kind of like it. I think it looks good. So folks, we're in level 4 of this hype train and we are a minuscule 9 subs away. Are there 9 more brave heroes who want to subscribe to TRRS and help me drag my tired ass across the finish line for the day? Is it Ralph Lauren? No, I got this from Walmart, this shirt, so it's definitely not Ralph Lauren. Hello, Kim Jong-vroom. Can I help you? What seems to be the issue? What seems to be the problem? Just need a Soviet Ushanka, Adidas tracksuit, and perhaps some Stoli, and the look will be complete. For sure, you pop a squat in that look. Kim Jong-vroom is a great name. I like that, yeah. I have a couple tracksuits. Like I've told you before, folks, I've mixed and matched the TRRS merch to make it official tracksuits. Rousseau sounds French. A consigliere of Napoleon Bonaparte. Perhaps tell me, Robert, if I search your person, will I find the coordinates to the island of Elba? No, you will not. No, you will not. So a mere 9 subs away, friends. Are there 9 brave heroes that want to step up and support this program? Again, it's the only way that I am able to continue doing this show each and every day is through the extreme generosity of this community. The only way that I'm able to continue doing this show every day is if I make the little number at the bottom of the screen go up.
You can count
That's
on
just how
me.
it
You're
works.
going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Comrade Timmy, thanks for the gifted sub. Very first gifted sub in the channel. Very, very kind of you. Thank you. 8 subs away, folks. 8 measly little subs away. What do we think? Does anyone else want to support this show, support this community? 90 seconds left in this hype train. You do have access to special hype train emotes as well if you subscribe now. If we get up to that level 5. 8 mighty sparrows.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through
Vision
all this.
of Grace, thanks for the Prime sub. I've seen a number of new community members over the last couple of weeks, and it's really encouraging. Thank you, Vision of Grace. I really appreciate the Prime sub. Thank you for the Bezos bucks. Do we get our own balaclava? It would be good merch, really, if I made TRRS balaclavas.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Yeah, I think it's some people from the raid last week. I got a number of new followers and viewers from that. Diego, thank you for the gifted sub. If you actually are in financial troubles, then you do not need to subscribe. Just to make that clear, abundantly clear to everybody.
You've just become an elite member
goodness.
of the Friendship Triangle.
Oh my goodness gracious. Jones, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Jones, I really appreciate that. Look at that. And people rock it right up to the very top of that friendship triangle system. Some people look around and they say, like, oh, the friendship triangle. And it must be really difficult to rise up to become an elite member in that community. It's probably a huge investment of both time and finances. Not true. It's not. It's actually really easy. So congratulations to you, Jones, for instantly rocketing right up to that elite tier of the Friendship Triangle system. What is the Destabilization Institute again? That's the Rousseau Institute. The Rousseau Institute for Western Destabilization. Which I do have every intention of turning into a legitimate institution within the next year. Yes, you can join. Like I've been talking about, folks, if our role in the West, is not to vote for social democratic politicians who are going to give us a better welfare state. It's to try and do everything we can to dismantle our empire from the inside, like Che Guevara instructed us to. And that's what the Rousseau Institute of Western Destabilization is all about. It's getting a place where we can all organize together under that kind of mission. Can I get a doesn't have donkey brains certificate at your institution? I'm going to say yes. We'll have to figure out exactly what that's going to involve, but no, I know, Dr. Maggot. I know. But I'm nice though. I want to be mindful of people's situations. Is there merch? Yes, there is. Like the shirt that I'm wearing right now. And in fact, I have a red Institute for Western Destabilization hoodie, which I could pair with this balaclava, which would probably look pretty sick. If I get red pants, then it's even better. Is that worth one? If I go put on my red hoodie, is that worth 1 sub? Is that worth the final sub if I go and get my red Rousseau Institute hoodie and put it on right now? There's always been merch for sale. There's been merch for sale for the last year and a bit. Matt likes the look. Okay, well, I kind of like it too. We are just 1 sub away though, folks. We're one sub away. Who's going to be the hero? Who's going to be the hero that again drags my tired ass across the finish line?
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to
Amazing
talk
Bird
you through
Show.
all
Thank
this.
you. Thank you, Amazing Bird Show, and thanks for everyone for supporting this channel and this community today and every other day. It means a lot, and I appreciate it. Very, very kind and generous people that follow this community. I might live in a town where the words Western destabilization might get me into some shit. And it can be like that sometimes, isn't it? You can just say it's a joke. It's a joke, you see. You don't need to worry. No one needs to worry. The whole thing is just a joke. So, it's just a gag. It's just a little jape. The whole Western destabilization thing. Bit. The whole Western destabilization bit that we like to do. Little rib. Matt, what a sad state of affairs. The hogs are starting to come around on Israel. Libs are just digging in even more. How embarrassing. Try Western destabilizing in a small town, brother. I mean, it should be as well. I should point out, though, as much as I do think we need to dismantle the empire from within or do everything we can to do that, the whole idea of Western destabilization is because that's how we talk about nations that try to engage in any kind of like populist economic policy, nationalizing resources, strengthening labor unions, land reform. Anytime any country around the world does this, we're saying they're unstable. They're destabilizing. Did Dulles kill JFK?
You've
Yes.
just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
Yes, Alan Dulles killed JFK. Absolutely. You just need to read Devil's Chessboard. You read Devil's Chessboard, even just the first couple of chapters of Devil's Chessboard, you're like, oh, Dulles totally killed JFK. It's just couldn't be more obvious. Bleep Lord, thanks for the 5 gifted subs. Coming at the very end. Thank you, Bleep Lord. I appreciate that. Give my regards to David Tovarish. I'll see folks tomorrow for the season finale. I love you. Take care. Goodbye.